Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll podcast brought to you by the Adventure Archive. My name is Ryan.
And my name's Hunter.
And today we are going to be going over the lo-fi blues-infused space western RPG, Orbital Blues from SoulMuppet Publishing. How are you doing this morning, Hunter?
I'm so good. You know, I'm ready to be out here and be a jazzy, lonely space cowboy, listening to the blues, talking about all the stuff I did wrong in my life and how it haunts me. I'm fantastic. How are you, Ryan?
I literally cannot wait. And I just got to also say, your energy level is like up here right now. You're not a sleepy boy this morning.
I have been flipping my sleep schedule, actually.
Good. Yeah.
Because Christmas decimated it, and Emily works really late now, and she works from home, so I've been staying up with her, and so I stopped fucking doing that.
There you go.
So,
way to fucking do it. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say real quick, our podcast has been a lot more listens, which is fantastic. And I wanted to do a quick shout out to whoever's listening to us in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
You're the only one.
No, listen, everybody is fantastic, but out of nowhere, we can see the analytics of where most people listen to our stuff. And we're I'm from California, and a lot of our stream is from California, so it's generally been California. But for the last couple of weeks, the number one location that's listened to our podcast is Minnesota, and 80% of Minnesota is Minneapolis. It has beat California for a couple of weeks now. So you fans out there in the Midwest, we really appreciate
those
you.
Twin Cities,
Yeah. So thank you. And for everyone that's been listening to it, we appreciate it. I think we've hit over 12 countries now, I think. Nice. I haven't shown you a lot of the analytics, but it's Hong Kong, Ireland, there's a bunch of really cool stuff. But yeah, shout out to all you listeners.
There's a bunch of those TikToks going around about making fun of dudes that have a podcast, because a lot of dudes who have podcasts are those alpha dudes that are really douchebags. But it's a high value male with 30 listeners. I bring a lot to the table.
Fucking douche. Listen, I love the fact that we have a podcast, but there's a little part of me every time I'm like, oh yeah, I do a podcast, that just goes, oh my God. Yeah, I have a podcast.
Bald white guy with a podcast. And let me tell you, there's another bald white guy out there with a podcast who's made it really hard for bald white guys with podcasts.
Yes. I'm a balding white guy with a podcast.
Yeah, listen, Joe Rogan's a huge dick. So
yeah, fuck Joe Rogan. I'd really like to get off of that. Joe Rogan.
Can we get a fuck Joe Rogan in the chat?
Yeah. And for all you idiots out there that listen to Jordan Peterson, the dumb guy's version of a smart guy, fuck you too. And that's the last we're going to say about it. Fuck fascism.
The dumb guy's version of a smart guy.
Yeah. So anyway, we are going to go ahead and kick. I don't think I have any physical rewards.
Do I?
I don't know. I got a bunch of stuff in, but I think it's all
Vast in the mail this week, but it wasn't. I got World Champ games because I bought some stuff, but not physical rewards. Oh, not a physical reward, but I am rocking my new Loot the Room baseball tee from Chris Bissett. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, kicking over to Kickstart the Podcast here. Let's see, the first one I want to go over. It's probably not this one. Let's go over this. I say this, so your podcast listeners know exactly what I mean. This is Apocrypha from Chris Eichhorn. I want to make sure I'm saying that right. I should just tweet him and just be like, hey, am I an idiot that says your name wrong all the time? But Christian Eichhorn has done some amazing stuff from Merkborg. You should follow him on Twitter. You should follow all the stuff that he does. He's one of those there. I think there's one project in and back from him. I think it was the last one, just because you know how I feel about tech in my games, and I think it leaned a little bit more into you
do not like tech in your games. You really don't.
I don't.
I'm the tech guy and the games guy,
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is I either want no tech, literally just mud and blood, or I want computers in people's brains. There's no middle ground.
Yeah,
I don't want steampunk or anything. I literally want spaceship cyber hackers or sword and guts, and that's it. But anyway, Apocrypha is a collection of Apocrypha, monsters, diseases, monstrous classes, and dungeons for Merkborg. So basically, this is a giant supplement of everything you could want from it. He has been posting some of the work in progresses on Twitter, and they look fantastic. I mean, just like all of the stuff he does, it's great. And I think we've said this before.
It's really solid.
It's so good.
And that cover, man, that cover is fucking wicked,
dude. It's so good. So it's
the fucking goats.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a
chef's kiss.
Badass looking goat. All black, white, and yellow. I think we talked about this before. One of my favorite things about the way that he does Merkborg stuff is that it's Merkborg style, but distinctly also his. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like it's not like a rip of Johan Noor. It's like he took the vibe of what it is and has really made it his own, but it still fits right in next to the Merkborg book. You know?
Did he do what was the oh, it'll come to me. Keep going.
Purgatory. We can literally I can literally click on his name and look at all 7 that he's created. We can give you a list of all the stuff that he's done. Boneheart Crusaders is the only one that I didn't back, and I still wanted to and then meant to, and I think I just forgot to go back to it. If it's available, probably end up on Exalted Funeral. I'm gonna end up getting it. But Sacrifice was great. Purgatory was great. Temple of the Kraken God was great.
Yeah, he did Temple of the Kraken God. Okay.
Yeah, Temple of the Kraken God was great. Oh, I don't have this one. The Vaults of Torment. No, do I?
I don't know that one. But I didn't attach. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so Apocrypha. Fantastic. Chris Eichhorn, a fantastic Morkborg creator.
Yeah. And it's already met its funding goal. It's like quadrupled its funding goal. It runs until February 12th, so it's got a little bit less than 2 weeks to go. So honestly, if you like Merkborg stuff, this is a name that you should write down. Chris Eichhorn and Philip Reed, if they drop something, just buy it because it's fantastic.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is the summon seed and the content seed in the highest back level? Because the highest backing is only 50 pounds. That's not bad at all. I mean, like really super reasonable. But I'm wondering what that is. Do you know what it is?
I don't. Maybe it's been a little while since I read this because I backed it like day one. So let's find it. Oh, we will have to dig through this a little bit more. Maybe it's in the FAQs. You may remove products like Gagmag Sacrifice,
Hunter always asking the hard-hitting questions, you know? Really digging into what we're looking at, you know? Don't call me the father of cats for nothing.
Fucking douchebag.
It's nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No. Well, the other thing too is he does do the print-on-demand codes with this stuff. So it's only $11 plus the print-on-demand cost, and the print-on-demands are, like we've talked about, are looking better and better. They are
getting a lot better. I mean, because more people are doing them, there's more money going into them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Survey. Interesting. We'll follow up. We'll get our reporters out there.
We will follow up.
We'll follow up on that. But
the other thing that you might like, real quick, he has decided that his next project will be Mothership. And then he's going to alternate between the two. So, yeah. So, back Apocrypha, it's awesome. Honestly, like we've talked about this before, 9 times out of 10, sight unseen, I'm going to be like, oh, he dropped another Merkborg thing? Well, I backed it. What did I back? Because whatever it is, it's going to be worth it, honestly. So, Legend Has It from Adam Bell is a really, really interesting kind of like card game, tabletop role-playing game.
I backed this. We just talked about this and I backed this. I'm like, this is it. I'm into this shit, bro.
So good. It's an anthology myth-making card game where you interpret story prompts pulled from your own books. So the way it works, Legend Has It, I just said that part. So basically you take turns telling stories with your friends. There's timeline cards that advance play through phases of telling 1, 2, or 3 simultaneous storylines. The storylines advance by interpreting sentences drawn from real books. Cards in the game generate the random page, paragraph, and sentence number that you will use, and each self-contained storyline draws on all of its prompts from the same book. When the story ends, you'll choose a different book from the shelf to start the next one. So you literally use the books you own at home. And listen, I don't remember who said it sometime, but if you don't own books, you're not fuckable. Buy books. and then put them on your shelf, and then buy this game, and then play it with those books. It looks really great. Yeah, again, you people in podcast land can't see it, but there is an actual play that he did with plus one exp. Great channel over on YouTube. We follow him on Twitter. He's fantastic. We'll talk about it. Give me here in a second. But they did an actual play of it. It looks fantastic. You can find it on YouTube on their YouTube channel. But yeah, one of the things I like the best about this too is the physical game's only like $30. And my favorite kind of project is the projects where you get to the end and it says, hey, it's all done. All you have to do is give me your money. And when Kickstarter gives that to me, I'll send it to you. Like Red Giant was very similar. It was such a quick turnaround for that.
Adam Bell also, I did not realize this, but he did No Stone Unturned, which I have. And I haven't played it, but I really like it. And I think it's like I really like it's on Exalted, I believe is where I ended up getting it. But interesting, I realized he did both. I'm super stoked for this, and I'm a big proponent of like, listen to y'all, like Ryan and I spend a lot of money on Kickstarter. But like the highest that you can give Adam Bell for this, it's $30. It's a game that you can replay over and over. It's very gamified, like it's a creative writing game. And I love that. And if you have the right group of friends for that, $30, like a couple beers and $30, and you have like fun nights, like whenever you guys want to play this. I think this is a really cool, I like stuff like this. This is very cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's not our usual tabletop game, but I'm very into it, you know?
Super into this. Definitely backed it. The other thing that I love about it is you get, I obviously backed the physical, but you get the physical and digital. And it's not just like, here's a PDF, print and play, like maybe you can go cut it out. They actually give digital files and a website with rules with instructions on how to import the digital files into this website, so you can actually play the cards like on a place that's supposed to be used to play digital card games on. So it's awesome. Yeah, so it's an interface for you to actually play the game. So if you you and me could play this game from literally across the country as the game is supposed to be played, not just a PDF where you get the rules and hope that you can figure it out. So that's a really cool thing that I can only imagine took a bunch of work. Totally worth it. So again, for both of us, this was like an insta back. It seems super cool. And yeah, so Adam Bell, Legend has it. It's on Kickstarter right now. It is almost fully funded. It's only got $425 left to get fully funded, and it has 16 days to go. It finishes on February 15th. So in the next 16 days, I highly recommend you go snag this. Once again, Legend has it from Adam Bell.
That guy or it's not back. I just followed that guy on Twitter. I'm gonna keep up with him. I want to see what he does past this.
Yeah, well, I think we follow him on the Weekly Scroll.
I follow him on my personal.
On your personal. The father of cats' personal Twitter, guys.
Yeah. It's actually Kitty Boy on Twitter.
Kitty, I know it is, and you're a fucking terrible person. There's a game that I haven't even mentioned to you yet that we'll go over that I was like, Hunter's going to take the lead on this just out of principle. I don't know if you can guess which one it was, and if not, you'll see when you see it.
I'll see it.
Another one that I backed really interestingly was, it's called Grok. First of all, for those that can't see this image here,
it's pretty good.
It definitely punches you in the face with like weird fantasy. It's this giant kind of like pterodactyl bird thing with like 3 eyes and a knight riding on top.
It's like a 3-eyed dino chicken, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And the game is called Grok ? So this looks really amazing.
It does look really good.
Yeah. It says, set in a gonzo world of boundless plausibility, use your ingenuity and resourcefulness to overcome strange and perilous threats. It also, I know Kickstarter, a lot of people do 30 days, but people are starting to stretch that out a little bit more into like 40 and 45 days, which I think is fantastic.
I do too.
But this is far funded. It's like 10 times its funding goal. It still has 34 days left on it. And to talk about it a little bit, so this is the full image of that piece at the top. And again, you people out there in podcast land can't see this, so just go check it out on Kickstarter.
Oh no, you guys can definitely see it on Kickstarter. Yeah,
you can see it on Kickstarter or on our VOD. But Grok is an adventure role-playing game where you assume the role of an adventurer in a gonzo world of boundless plausibility and use your ingenuity and resourcefulness to overcome strange and perilous threats. And I can't remember, the setting looks amazing. The planet of Grok was once a haven for transdimensional migrants and a bastion of advanced technomancy until the cataclysm rendered it a desolate hollow planet. Now, feral monstrosities, gotta have it. Feral monstrosities haunt its chasms, cities float among the clouds, and a derelict space station encapsulates the planet and bathes the world in perpetual phosphorescent radiation. But this is the part I really liked. Inspired by the core tenets of old school adventure games, Grok was influenced by Cortex Prime, Electric Bastion Land, Fate Core, Freeform Universal, Index Card RPG, Knave, Numenera, Savage Worlds, Shadow of the Demon Lord, Technoir, Troika, and Vagabonds of Diefed. Vagabonds of Diefed is a game that I downloaded recently, and you should check it out. Remind me to send that to you.
Yeah.
And then a universal action resolution system, player-facing fail-forward mechanics with non-binary outcomes, and slot-based resource and damage management system. Just sounds like a really, 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 really cool system. And the other thing is the digital version is $1. Ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
I mean,
and the
physical for that, that's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm all about accessibility in the gaming space. So that's fucking awesome.
It's awesome. And the physical version, which I backed the digital, I can tell you right now in the next 34 days, I'm going to bump that up to physical.
Yeah, you
is only $10. And it just for the art alone, it's worth $10. I mean, if anything inside looks like just that one image, I think it's easily worth $10 for a physical zine. I
agree. I really do like that over the top, like ridiculous, weird fantasy style it's got going on.
And it's not even like a POD, dude. Like, you literally get a full color satin finish saddle stitched booklet on 100-pound paper with a 100-pound cover. Like, it's a legit zine, and it's
if you're real honestly, Ryan, if you're really about it, you're gonna go to the highest tier and you're gonna get 5 physical copies, you know?
Yeah, I'll just get the retailer tier. Yeah. But I'm not going to do that. But I can tell you right now that I will definitely bump this up to physical before the end of the 34 days. Because for $10,
delivery is steep on that boy, though.
Where's it shipping from?
Oh no, it just says $10 delivery for the US.
So $20 for the game total, still worth it.
Still worth it, yeah. I agree.
So that is Grok. One of the things I want to talk about. So again, to remind people, Kickstart the Podcast. I don't know if we'll keep that name forever. As we know, there's a lot of the crowdfunding sites suck, and Kickstarter going to blockchain and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I personally need to read more into it. I know a lot of people are kind of rightfully upset about its quasi-monopolization and its kind of shitty business practices towards small creators. Not kind of, they're shitty business practices towards small creators. So they're moving into other things, like Adam Vast going on a Game Found and other games like that are moving into other spaces. One of the other things that is out there right now, so Kickstart the Podcast is for crowdfunding, not just Kickstarter, just to throw that out there. Itch funding is not new, I don't know how old it is, but it's a thing that's becoming more and more popular, where you can back a game and what you get from the game is what's called like an ash can, which is kind of like a beta version, low art, mostly text only, generally how it works. You'll get that now generally on a lot of these, and then as you reach different tiers within your itch funding, it will unlock more of what could be done on the final zine. But you still get, if it only unlocks 2 tiers, you'll get the zine at 2 tiers. Like, the project's gonna happen, you funding will just increase how much that project can happen and how much it can do. So Through the Void is from 1+EXP, who we just recently talked about. And again, if you don't watch their YouTube channel, you definitely should. They do reviews of games too, but they're generally like 5 minutes to flip through, but it's got really great production quality. They're awesome. I'm sure you know them way more than you know us. They're awesome, and they've been doing a lot of They've been doing a lot of They've been doing a lot of actual plays of games recently with people like Ian Newsom, or they even had Adam Vass on to run some I don't know if you saw this. He had them on to do they ran Necro Nautilus with Cyber Metal. They like bashed it together, created this like really awesome kind of like clock-based hex crawl Cyber Metal thing, and played Necro Nautilus in Cyber Metal world basically.
Well, I'm furious now, so
yeah, you should check it out. I got to watch like the first like 45 minutes and then I had to go to bed. But it is on Plus One's YouTube channel, and it's probably still up on their Twitch channel as well. But long story short, the whole point of that is Through the Void was put out by them, and it says, after the Solar Wars, almost nothing was left. Empires demolished, cultures destroyed, the Legion scattered across the void as a shadow of its former self. All that remains is the 3TR N5 station, Eternus. So it is a minimalist OSR inspired RPG for 1 to 7 players by Tony Vicinda, who runs Plus One. And the core rules of the game fit on 1 sheet of paper. Explore abandoned asteroid mines, hulking relics of the Solar Wars and Lunar Labs. And Through the Void provides the character sheets, rules, and procedures you need to build thrilling space adventures. And all you need are pencils, dice, and a few hours with your friends. So you can back it at $5 for Void Crawler, where you get a copy of the beta Ashcan. You can back it at $12, where you get a copy of the digital zine later this summer, plus the Ashcan. And you can also add community copies. And then there's $80 Station Commander, where you get a copy of the digital zine, and you get to be an NPC and play a session with Tony Vicinda. So pretty sick.
That's a pretty good $80.
I know, right?
Tier. I think that's a really good $80 tier. I actually think that's awesome.
I think that's great.
That's fucking sick.
Super worth it, absolutely. So it looks really cool. I'm not gonna bring it up. It's still funding. It's 1 page. If you want to see it, at least go drop $5 on it. Just go to itch.
I backed it.
Yeah, search. It's tonyplus1.itch.io/through-the-void, or just go to itch and search Through the Void of Tony Vicinda, and check it out. Again, super worth it. I did get the beta Ashcan 1-page version of it. It's really neat. It's form fillable. Like it's really cool. And as far as their funding goes, they're shooting for 1,500. They've hit every tier except for that final tier between 1,000 and 1,500. They're 1,100 plus right now, and which is 74% funded. And I don't. How long does it run for? Until it gets funded, so go buy it. Yeah, a little bit longer. Yeah. That's what I have to say about that. First of all, Tony seems like a really awesome guy. I love watching the streams when I actually get to watch them. They always come out at like 10 though, so I'm like just heading to bed. The VODs are great. His YouTube channel is fantastic. And this seems really, really cool too with what I've seen so far. I can't wait for the final digital zine. Again, super worth it. Check it out. Through the Void, Tony Vicinda on itch, itch.io. And for all you people that only play 5e, play other games and find a lot of them on itch.
Have you been listening to our podcast? Play other games.
And you can find a ton of them on itch. Also, quick shout out to Exalted Funeral, Spear Witch, Riding Cantati, Monkey Paw Games. There's so many fucking games. Go find an online shop and buy some. Yeah. Like, honestly, play another game. And this is a good one to start on. And the last one we're going to talk about, I don't know if this just started dropping, but I saw this on Twitter, and Hunter sent it to me right before stream. This is called Roguelike Dungeon. Roguelike Dungeon is an analog dungeon generator that uses a simplified version of the way that roguelike computer games generate and populate their infinite random dungeons. Wield the power of procedural dungeon generation using this intuitive pocket-sized ttrpg tool. And yeah, I think it just dropped. I haven't even got a chance to back it yet because Hunter sent me the link right before we started.
I didn't realize it was out either. And it's right now it's at 0. So it must have just dropped. And it's $20 on sale for $10 right now. So as soon as we finish the stream, I'm going to back this. It looks amazing. And when you get the printable zine, it's a pocket zine because it looks like they show you how to print it, cut it, and fold it into your own zine that you can then staple and actually carry around with you. So it looks great. And honestly, I just want to see how someone tries to do roguelikes, especially after playing like
with the people we've been playing with a lot recently, or the people who've created games that we've been playing a lot recently that are very like roguelike themed in the way that they do things, it'll be interesting to see that conversion from the game to ttrpg and someone's interpretation of it. So this looks really, really cool. And it is from David Hyman, Kentaro Jackson. Again, you can find them. Yeah. So,
but I'm their first backer on roguelike, so
there you go.
Yeah, number one, baby.
I'm not gonna put in my PayPal information on stream, so I will do this after. And then I almost forgot before I just got a message from Hunter. The last one we're gonna go over today is called Across 1,000 Dead Worlds. This is a sci-fi role-playing game for 1 to 5 players. Explore alien sites.
Players. You can play
1 to 5
person, motherfucker. It can be you and your buddy. I'm into this.
Dude, you explore alien sites and traverse undiscovered planets for fame and fortune. So this is Alex T. They have not been making games for too long. I listened to some of his interview recently that he did. Fuck, why is my brain broken? I think he was on with Tony Vicenda, and he was talking. So, like, seriously, like, he's such a cool guy to check out. He's been talking to all of my favorite people lately, and it's been fantastic. And he's got like 1 million interviews coming up too. But they've made a number of other games, like they did Secrets Beyond the Shroud. They did Disciples of Bone and Shadow, which I have both of them.
Yeah,
they're both solo games. They're really, really fantastic. So what's cool about this one is what we just said. You can play it as a solo game, or you can play with other people. It says it is a new horror space exploration tabletop role-playing game that can be enjoyed as a single-player experience or in a group of up to 5 players with or without a game master by Black Oath Entertainment. Black Oath Entertainment is Alex T's like company that he publishes under. It's also where I recently got my
like the images of like the rendering of the books. Like it just looks like such a high quality like product in a big book. And we've been doing a lot of zines and a lot of smaller books, and I really love them. But occasionally, it's nice to get like it looks like a pretty decent sized book. You know,
nice to get a fat book. I'm not gonna lie, it is. And yeah, the renderings look fucking amazing. The art looks fantastic. Even the very first one with this like creature on it. The galaxy is full of horrors, creatures of all types that can and will kill an unsuspecting crew. And there is this creature with this mouth almost completely like wide open, tongue hanging out, and it looks amazing. Like you said, I think within here somewhere it talks about the artists that they use and the renderings that they do. And it just looks it looks stunning. And one of the places in it is Karam Station, which is going to be like a big place within the game. It's backed a ton. It's at almost $100,000 out of about a $22,000 goal. I assume it's a weird number because it's probably not in. Yeah, it's a 20,000 euros. 1,900 backers. It's only got 42 hours to go. So honestly, if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll probably get a chance. If you're waiting for the podcast, you fucking missed it because this usually doesn't go out till Tuesday. But you have till Monday, January 31st to back it. I don't know if he did this on purpose, but I think this ran for the entire month of January and stops the day before Zemo. And if he did, that's fantastic. It's cool that he wasn't backing at a really big, throwing out a really big project during like a smaller like ttrpg project thing. And if he didn't, I'm glad it worked out that way. I recently actually bought the new Sunken Lands Bronze Edition book. We'll talk about that later. From the Black Oath store. There's only 200 printed. I got number 71. Nice. But it's great. So go check out, first of all, go check out all the stuff that Black Oath does. But definitely check out this. It looks really cool. And of course, I backed it at the Xenoarchaeologist top tier. There is a Murgo edition, which is a hardcover copy inside of a sturdy cloth-bound slipcase, and a suite of Kickstarter exclusive physical items. So here's the kind of the cover of the slipcase. It's this black slipcase with Karam Station Authority, like in silver across the front of it. It looks beautiful.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. And then all the maps that you get for it looked really, really well done too. They're like quasi-hex, quasi-blueprint looking. They look amazing. So you get 6 battle maps, you get a custom folder with pre-printed game materials, with character sheets, exploration reports, a ton of stuff. So it looks amazing. Shipping's about $13. So total, if you go to the top tier, you're looking at about like $93 for a book that I believe, if I remember correctly, is like well over 300 pages, 400 pages. It's a big boy.
Shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a big boy.
We might go through this on the podcast, but we are not going through the whole thing, bro. That's a lot of pages for us.
Games big like this,
is so dense.
Yeah. Or even games like DCC and stuff like that, we're gonna really have to grind down to just the mechanics and maybe touch on like the lore bits and extra stuff. And there's no way we can go over a 400-page book. But yeah, like I said, he did Secrets Beyond the Shroud, Disciple of Bone and Shadow. He only started making games in 2018. So somehow he has made in less than 4 years 2 amazing games. They're both super cool. This one is coming out, which is fucking amazing. And yeah, Kickstarter Addicts Unite.
Dude, honestly, there's so much cool sci-fi shit coming out this next year. I'm really stoked.
So excited. And not only, here's the other thing too, is the people he's got working on the game too. Flux is the
capacitor goes in your DeLorean.
Yeah. So Signum Nox on Twitter, also known as Flux. Longtime role-playing enthusiast that began his creative journey in the RPG scene with his imaginative format, redesigns and open source systems such as Ben Milton's Knave, along with his intricate character sheets and layout designs. So he worked on Knave with Ben Milton. Cool. The artist, that's what it is. Vil is the artist and illustrator from Brazil, using digital and traditional art, which is one of the things that makes it look really, really cool. Likazor, I'm going to say that wrong, Lykozor, professional 2D and 3D artist from Ukraine, specializing in horror, who's going to add a bunch of stuff to the book. Vladimir Menyukin is based in Moscow, specialized in evocative grand scale sci-fi digital illustration. Long story short, he's brought a ton of people with great art experience onto this. Glenn Seal is the artist and writer behind Monkey Blood Design, any nominated winning freelance graphic designer, yet another artist, and a couple other people you've probably definitely heard of. LFOSR, who does a lot of art, book crafting, and owns a shop in San Diego that I've bought. Like, that's where I got Knave and Roguelane and stuff from. And Vi Huntsman is another person you'll see in a lot of books as like an editor, but also their collabs without permission YouTube channel. I don't know, Hunter, if you've seen that at all. It's so fucking cool. They did a breakdown of Mothership, but they went to like the Salt Flats, and the production value on their stuff is literally cool. Like, you're gonna watch the Mothership one and shit yourself. It's that cool. I'm not even gonna lie.
You know, the sculpting team just gave us 131 bits because one of my cats came onto the stream. So
keep your fucking bits. Thanks, Skull. Cat suck. And that's it. Right at the 45-minute mark, we hit all the things we wanted to hit today. The other thing that we're gonna talk about is Zemo. Comes up in a week, less than a week. Zemo is Zine Month. Kickstarter decided to move Zine Quest, I think it's Zine Quest 3, for no fucking reason, to August to coincide with Gen Con. I guess for bigger creators, because that's what Zine Month is all about.
Yeah, because Zine Month's for big creators, y'all.
Right. And they gave pretty late notice. So a lot of people that were going to drop games in February had plans for that. And with a lot of creators that are trying to make a living in this, suddenly telling someone your crowdfunding project that you were, banking on in February is going to be 6 months later. Good luck, fuckers. Did not sit well with a lot of people. So I'm not sure exactly how it started. But a lot of people got together and they're going to do Zine Month 2022 in February here. And a lot of people banded together. Like, I know we talked about Tony Vicenda a lot tonight, but he put out a guide to making press kits. A lot of other people put out a lot of free resources on how to make games, put games together, and get those games out. There's websites where you can drop your game so people can explore that. And all over Twitter, if you search Zemo, Instagram, all those places, you'll see a lot of people that are basically going to do their own Zine Quest in February, and it is called Zemo, which is Zine Month. And we are super into it. And on Kickstart the Podcast, which is basically the first 45 minutes of each of our podcasts, we are going to try to go over as many of those games as we can throughout the month of February. So for 4 episodes, we're going to bust through as many projects on itch, Kickstarter, everything, and try to push a lot of those smaller creators with as much of a bump as we can possibly give. It's a little bump. We know that we're new to the scene, but any bump helps is our hope. So tune in here to check out a lot of new games that are coming out, and we'll direct you towards a lot of like zine month, zines, ttrpgs, and cool projects that are dropping either on Kickstarter, GameFound, Indiegogo, itch, whatever it is. We'll be doing it here. So support small creators, buy a fucking zine, play a game that's not 5e. And that's Kickstart the Podcast for this week.
Woo!
Woo! Are you ready to get into Orbital Blues?
Are you fucking ready, bro? Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm fucking ready, bro. Let's get sad in space. So
should have had some sad music in the background.
We don't put music on. We totally could.
We could.
There's plenty of copyright free music out there. So Orbital Blues from SoulMuppet.
Hi, Andy.
Hey. Yeah. So Orbital Blues from SoulMuppet Games. Sam, I seriously I hate names. I know that's a terrible thing to say. I wish I could pronounce it better and not sound like an idiot is what I hate. Sam, I'm gonna say Sleney. Joshua Clark, Zachary Cox, Orbital Blues, the Space Western RPG, 10 words or less, first impression.
Character driven, fun, sad cowboy romp. You know, I'm into this.
There you go.
Now.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would say I get to play Cowboy Bebop. Yeah. So, and by that we mean the anime, not the live action. So
it already got canceled. It didn't even make it through one season.
Good. Here's the thing: if that was the only thing that came out, it was entertaining enough. But the fact that it completely missed out on the entire vibe of the ennui and it was Flash without substance. You know, it's basically Baz Luhrmann as a TV show, but sad space cowboys. So right off the bat, as we get into it, we go page by page, but there's a beautiful spread in the front of galactic generators. The frontier is a vast place with myriad cities, stations, hubs, and ports. What follows are a series of tables to quickly generate names and the basic information that interstellar outlaws might use or might find useful for their adventures. So this is D100 location name prefixes. Why don't you quick roll me a D100?
Bro, I'm gonna slow roll it because I didn't have a fucking dice roller pulled up like I normally do. All right, D100. So
for a location name, roll one of the following: 75. A prefix. 75. So you get a prefix, which is Bresnik. Roll another D100 for the suffix. No, I'm sorry. 3d6.
3d6?
No, 66 for suffix 1. Yeah, just do 66.
26.
26. So Bresnik Landing.
And then 3 for
and then it says surnames, location name suffix.
11.
Where's our surname? Maybe that's you.
Oh, I'm looking at suffix 2. My bad.
Guys, we seem prepared, right?
Yeah, we're still linking up. It's fine. Or you're going to bed. Anyway. Whatever our normal excuse is.
Bresnik Landing. So one of the things early on that we're going to talk about in this is there's a shitload of tables and stuff. And I'm curious how much of that, we'll have to go back and look at the Kickstarter page at some point, how much of that was unlocked Kickstarter goals where it's if we get to this amount, we'll give you 10 more gambits or something, because it's just pages and pages and pages of some of this stuff, and not in a bad way. There's so many of them are really good, and you get so many of these name generators and parts generators. you have to do this thing. So here's like 8 lists of D100s, and it's fantastic. It's really
it's a really well put together book, you know?
Yeah. It's beautiful right off the bat too. So Jared Sinclair did the editing. One of the things that I've been doing a lot with, because I have so many tabletop games, and I'm trying to read as many and dig through as many as I can. What I've decided to start doing is, if I see a name, I find them and see if they've done anything else. And especially if I've seen that name twice. Jared Sinclair's name is all over like some of our favorite writers' zines. It's all over the place. So now I'm going to like Itch and finding their Itch store and trying to download all of their stuff. And I've been doing that with a lot of people recently. Mike Anderson, Micah, not Mike, Jared Sinclair, Spencer Campbell. I mean, you know, there's so many amazing names out there. Looking more into Nate Treme. So if you see someone's name in a small zine, for anything that they've done, whether it's editing, writing, whatever it is, go find what else they've done, because they've probably done some awesome stuff, which is what I'm discovering.
Yeah.
Be willing to spend a bunch of money. And if you don't, the great thing about a lot of these people, if you don't have a lot of money, generally you can get a community copy, which is a fantastic part of the community. So content right off the bat, we have character creation, playing the game, running the game, and the settler system. The settler system is a series of locations and marks and things like that, things you can use to play the game. So we're not going to dig too deep into that. But what did we decide? Do you want to do character creation or playing the game?
I'll do playing the game. Why don't you start character creation? I'll sit back and I'll hang out with chat, you know?
There you go. One of the very first things that we both noticed right away on this page of the PDF, can you guess what it is, people?
Wow, we're such creatures of... We just repeat the same thing every fucking show, so...
Hey, listen, you know, we have... That's us. That's our thing. We'll make merch that just has hyperlinks, ? Because there aren't any. In a zine that's 203 pages, hyperlinks would be super helpful. I mean, it's just so much easier to navigate, and PDFs are not the best way to read a book. I love that a bunch of people are putting things out in EPUB and Mobi and various different formats so you can read things better. But if you put out a PDF, it would be very beneficial to your readers to help with navigation if you hyperlink it. Even if it's just the basic contents to that one page, that's enough. It's helpful. So anyway, getting into Orbital Blues, the other thing that we noticed right away is the art is fucking insane. Like, it's fantastic.
Oh, it's so good. Stylistically, this book is really, really up there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
After we'll like run through this, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. One of the things that kills me is, for some reason, I still can't fucking place. I don't really edit myself a lot on Kickstarter. If I want something, I spend the money and just, you know, lose money. For some reason that I still don't understand, I had backed this at a pretty high tier and then lowered it down to just the digital tier.
You made him a fucking mistake, because the actual physical rewards look,
oh my god,
beautiful,
amazing, beautiful. And the one that I wanted, yeah,
this is before my like really dive deep into Kickstarter, which is caused by Ryan. It's your fault. I'm really bummed. I tweet them all the time. I'm like, when the fuck y'all gonna let me buy this book, bro? I want this book physically.
Well, what sucks is the art on the cover of the book is basically this giant kind of like old school street sign you would find kind of like outside of Vegas in the desert. It's got like a motel sign attached to it, all that kind of stuff. The regular cover is during the day, and then there's a Kickstarter exclusive night cover, which is a black cover, but there's some lights lit up on it.
Beautiful.
And Johan had it, and he showed it to us. I can't tell you how butthurt I am that I didn't get it. Part of it was just because this is a European SoulMuppet publishing and all this stuff. It was in euros, I think, or pounds. Basically, to get that tier, it was pretty expensive. It was pushing $100 to get that and like the cassette and stuff like that. And I think at the time I was like, I really just can't spend this right now. Let me get the digital version. We'll see how it goes. I can always buy, you know, the regular one in the future, which when this hits Exalted Funeral, you better fucking believe I will.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I'm also sad about is that the cassette tape it came with, do you know who did the cassette tape?
I think Chris Bissett did it. Did he not?
It was Chris fucking Bissett. And for those that are only listening to us, I'm rocking a Luther Room baseball tee right fucking now. I think I said that already. I'm so sad I don't have a Christmas cassette tape of like sad space western music, and a night version of this game in my hands is all I gotta say. It's a stunning game. It looks beautiful. So let's dig into it a little deeper. This is the rock and roll future of yesteryear that never was and nobody wanted. It is an intergalactic age of cowboys, outlaws, and bandits. Oxford comma, please. Playing it on an interstellar stage. It is a time of hyper-capitalism and a cutthroat gig economy. Unreliable trash heaps carry scrappy underdogs to their next gig, and corporation freighters lumber across the horizon laden with an empire's bounty. The backstreets of every terraformed metropolis brim with 1,000 lonely hearts and 1,000 more venal vendettas. The burnt-out wastelands between bright lights are lawless bat countries, anachronistic Americana languishing beneath multiple moons. Madness in every direction at every solar hour. These are the music-fueled Moon Age daydreams of rebel space age. These are your Orbital blues. I mean, come on.
It's a great setup for the way that this game is supposed to feel. Like, yep. I love the rock and roll future of yesteryear that never was. You know, yep. Like
it's fantastic.
It's perfect. It's exactly like, and like obviously this game is an homage to Cowboy Bebop, and that is exactly what Cowboy Bebop is. You have this like, it's in the future, but there's a lot of technology that like looks old and shitty and like is like what people thought technology would look like. And then there's stuff in it that's like, yeah, it's anachronistic. It's like, why is this here? This is totally out of time being here.
But it's fucking cool is why it's fucking cool.
This amazing.
Yeah, this so good. Well, we know it's SoulMuppet Publishing. All of them are fantastic.
I mean, just one entry though, you know.
Yeah. One of the things that I really love about this too is this tabletop game captured, because it's definitely super Cowboy Bebop, but it's a whole lot of Firefly in there too, you know, which is totally. Also amazing. One of the things I love about it is it captured, even the mechanics itself, capture Cowboy Bebop and Firefly way better than, like, for example, the live action Cowboy Bebop did, because they're even like the ennui, the blues, the sadness of your past catching up to you, and the things that you have to confront are literally built into the fucking game that we're going to get into shortly. Yeah. And that's something, again, that we just talked about. The live action completely missed out on. But yeah, again, we're getting into it. So there's a bunch of pages here, which I really like, but we're not going to dig too deep into. It says content warning. The book talks a lot about anxiety, depression, gambling, mental illness, violence, substance. So themes and topics that are definitely adult. Basically 0 sessions and safety tools. We talked about that a bunch. This book does a really, really good job. Yeah, it's fantastic. And it's got pages of stuff. It's got things to check out: X card from John Stravopoulos, script change from Bree Sheldon, or Lines and Veils by Ron Edwards, and pre-session discussions. Go through a bunch of that stuff. And the other thing that I really like that it went over is the Orbital era. So which part is a good one? Despite being a universe with interplanetary travel, data networks, and personal spaceships, the frontier galaxy of Orbital Views partially styles itself on mid to late 20th century aesthetics from the faded 1950s and 60s, the golden era of capitalism. Looks to the landscapes of the early 90s and the closing of the decade of greed, when the glossy paintwork of late-stage capitalism began to chip away. Though these decades were an exciting look and feel, remember that they were times of great socioeconomic inequality, injustice for women, people of color, LGBTQ plus people, and people living with disabilities, among others. The people who made this game explicitly condemn these attitudes and do not seek to emulate them or encourage their recreation. In like giant red bar, like on there. And it says, like in the real world, social systems in the world of Orbital Blues have failed vulnerable people. Safety, money, and power have been taken from these people and stockpiled by a small political and economic minority of capitalist elites. Your characters have fallen out with this way of life, if they were ever in it at all, and have chosen to live a life as interstellar outlaws. So long story short, it's a game. The setting in which this is based on, the real world implications of disenfranchised people, still have themes within this game. And it is great that there's a giant page here that basically says this existed, it still exists, let's put a spotlight on that, but don't be that in this game. basically fuck fascists. You know what I mean?
Fuck fascists.
Yeah. So love that. I think it's great. It's multiple pages. It's necessary. It's worth it. And anyone that ever tells you that if you say safety tools and goes, I don't need safety tools, they're fascists. Don't play with them. Fuck them. So the other thing I love throughout the entire thing is all of the different rock and roll quotes or music quotes. So maybe you live in a shotgun shack. Maybe your life is spent behind the wheel of a large automobile. You may even find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife. So ask yourself, how did you get here? So Talking Heads right off the bat, I'll take it.
Strong start. This is a great spread. I know we're looking page by page. I have the spread open on mine, and this like character concept, which it's like wide laid out, is chef's kiss, bro.
Describe it. It's kind of desert. There's mountains in the background. There is this figure with what looks to be a very large either staff. I think it's a staff. I was going to say gun, but it's probably a staff.
I think it's a sniper rifle. I think it's a really
That's what I thought
rifle.
too. Yeah, and it doesn't touch the ground. Whatever it is, it's cool. Wrapped in a kind of indigenous themed wrap
Poncho.
or blanket. Yeah, poncho. That's what I was trying to say. And then you're seeing them from behind, but shadowed in front of them in the dust is a silhouetted figure holding a gun. So they're clearly at some type of standoff. And you're right. It's beautiful. It sets it off right away. A lot of the beginning of this stuff is a lot of text and flavor text. So I'm going to do my best to sum it up a little bit so that we can get to the mechanics of the game a little bit. But this is an unparalleled age, a galactic age, the age of bounty hunters, vagrants, and bleeding heart outlaws. It is a new rebel era in the frontier galaxy, and you are an interstellar outlaw. So we're going to get first into character creation. Fuck your cat. So the first thing you want to come up with is a concept. Before getting into any mechanisms, think of the kind of character you want to play and what stands out about them. Use this as a base to build a simple, robust character concept. So I like that idea right off the bat, but you know how I feel about character creation before rules.
Yeah, you did not like that. I like that. You did not like that.
Well, you didn't like it after we went over Red Giant, though.
Yeah, that's true, but I like it.
But here's the thing.
I like the idea of it.
Here's the thing. I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. And what I'm saying is I'm not saying that I'm wrong, but the fact that a lot of people that I really respect make games and this is the order that they choose to do it in, a lot of them do, means that maybe I think about it a little bit more. Whether I like it or not doesn't matter.
It's interesting when you can start like cooking immediately with like, oh, okay, like this is what characters are like in this game. Like this is like I like as I go through rules, I'm already like, okay, cool. Here's some concepts that I want to play. Like I like it, you know.
I guess, but and I think honestly, it's just the way that people's brains works and the way that it helps them fit. And the way my brain works is, if you're playing something like 5e, the mechanics are basically like swing sword kill monster, right? But if you're playing a game where the mechanics actually feed into the story, I get a lot of inspiration from the mechanics and can understand better how to build a character for the game that I'm playing. And that's why I like the mechanics first, because when you can read about gambits and troubles and blues and how they work, when I get to then start thinking of my character concept, I have a lot of inspiration from those mechanics. So it's fine either way, because guess what? You have to read the whole book anyway. So it's just whichever one you run across first. We're starting with this. So first in character creation, they say come up with a concept. The second thing they have is a list of D100 names. So do you want to roll another D100 and pick a name?
Yeah, absolutely. I rolled an 83.
Cool. Another great piece of art. I mean, we're going to say this a bunch and it's going to be hard to describe all of them. So watch the VOD or buy the book, better. I don't think it's out for purchase anywhere yet. I think it's just Kickstarter
really
awards.
Not, because I keep fucking tweeting it. I'm sure they fucking hate me right now. But
probably.
Like, where can I buy this, man?
Don't do it from our account. Do it from your private kitty boy bullshit one or whatever.
I've been doing it from my personal.
What'd you roll again?
83.
83. DIAN. How do you want to say that? Diane? Diane?
DIA. Diane? Yeah, I'm good with that.
Diane or Deanne? Yeah.
Deanne.
Yeah. What is number 69? Sterling. That's another cool name. Long story short, a lot of great names on here. Jet's on here.
A lot of good roll tables in this book, you know?
So many good ones. What's interesting too, when you get to some of the ones later, especially the ship name one where it talks about like rock and roll stuff, there's so many references to so many amazing songs and albums and stuff. We'll definitely go over that one a little bit more. A lot of D100 tables. Valentine's on here. You know, that's a straight shot at Faye Valentine, probably one of my favorite female anime characters of all time. Deckard is on here. I mean, they definitely pulled from some really cool sources for a lot of their stuff.
Yeah.
Pulling it together. Once you have a concept and a name, think about what led this individual to the life of an interstellar outlaw. Because long story short, like, you are an interstellar outlaw. It tells you that right from the beginning. Your past is your past, and that comes up a bunch in the game, but this is what you are. How did you get there? There are three parts of the character abilities. So this is, I will say though, although I do prefer the mechanics first, I don't mind character creation when it does touch on the mechanics in the character creation, so that you're not completely lost on what you're doing. And this page literally has that. So this is a great way to do it. And I like this better than a lot of the ones I've read. So it literally straight up talks about the stats. And honestly, in character creation, if you're going to do it first, if all you do is give me how my stats work, that is more than enough for me, and I'm happy. And it can be first, and that's how it works. I just don't like character creation where you can read the entire thing on how to build a character, and you still don't really know how to play the game.
And still not really understand. Yeah, that's right.
So you get muscle, grit, and savvy. There's only 3 core stats. I like all of them because they're outside of like muscle, it's a spectrum a little bit. So muscle is the strength of your arm, the bulk on your jacket. It's literally your power. It's your ability to force a door open or to take a hit and keep going. And it's great. And they talk about a character with high muscle can be well built and peak physical condition, and a character with low muscle can be frail, thinly built, or out of shape. Grit is your next ability, and it is your ability to never give up or never give in. It's the tenacity to chase the intergalactic dream and the will to watch one friends come and go with the passing of the years. So it's your ability to resist pain and continue with arduous tasks, or to keep a straight face during a high stakes game. And I love that it makes perfect sense in both situations.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also really a really good instance of like the even just the names of the stats reinforcing the themes of the game. Like, it's not like they're like, oh yeah, you have strength, dex, and intelligence. They're like, no, you have grit and savvy, you know, because if you're out here on these mean streets in this, like, you know, post capitalism gig economy where you're like a bounty hunter or like, you know, doing some wet work, like, you gotta have that grit and savvy. Like, that, fuck yeah, that shit's tight, bro.
That's exactly it. Even the word itself, before you even read it, you're like, if I read muscle, grit, and savvy and never read anything else, I would 80%. I would have it without having to read anything else. And savvy is the speed of your arm, the pull of your trigger. The pull of your trigger finger, and is the speed of the cat. And the wit of the Joker. Savvy represents attributes based around both physical and mental agility. It can be used to lie about what debt hasn't been paid, as well as being used to see how fast you can draw your gun when that conversation goes south. Such a great line. Yeah. So long story short, it is literally being savvy. It's how fast, exactly. There's no better way than to say it. It's how fast you draw your gun and how good you lie. So good. So good. And your player characters tend to be very good at one thing, pretty good at one thing, and average at a third thing. Average is 0 across the board. You get to allocate a +2 to one stat, +1 to another, and 0 to the final one. And this is beyond the scope of an average person. But the average person does not tend to last long in the Frontier Galaxy. I love that. It's great. It's clean.
I really like that.
The mechanics are great.
So, yeah.
And maybe I'm completely wrong, but I do believe that this is based on Best Left Buried. Maybe I'm pulling that out of my ass, but I think.
I don't know what that is actually. So what's Best Left Buried?
Oh. It's a game. We'll go over it at some point. I really like it. Okay. I downloaded it. I bought it from the publishers. We'll look at it. In normal play, stats can range from 0 upwards. However, at both the player's and storyteller's discretion, a character stat may be lowered below 0 to a -1, and it could be due to certain events like a debilitating injuries, distress, things like that. If a stat is positive, add it to any stat checks using it, and if it's negative, subtract it. Great piece of art of people in a pool room with the sunset kind of going down behind it, or light coming in.
I like these, like, and there's a few that have faces in them, but a lot of these are just like the silhouettes of people. And it really lends to that, like the style of this. Like, And once again, like this book is a great example of how art reinforces a theme well, you know? Okay, what the hell is that? If you're
anyway,
anyway.
So but yeah, the other thing I like about the art in this book too is a lot of it's kind of like a slice of life, or like a slice in a moment, like that one from the very beginning where you can tell like it's a duel that's about to happen. So cool.
Yeah.
Like it just, the images are very evocative, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You definitely feel where you're getting it. The crew, ship's crews and character, ship's crew and character ensembles are a core pillar of space westerns, with characters, bonds, and relationships forming much of the internal momentum of narratives when ships are flying between gigs and deals. To help with this, take a look at one of the titles from the following page, think about how it relates to your character, then take another one of the titles and figure out how your character associates it with another character of the crew. Whatever you come up with, be sure it's collaboratively done. So basically, when you look at the next 2 pages, it's a really cool art spread of different names of or archetypes for what your character could be. So the fixer, the heartthrob, the spy, the drinker, the muscle, and they're all done in different fonts that are more evocative to each of those things.
Yeah, it's a
the
really
artist,
cool
the kid,
page.
Yeah. The snake, the rock, the cleaner. Long story short, it's like, what kind of nickname describes your character concept? Are you the wolf? Are you the muse? Are you the mechanic? And what you're supposed to do is basically pick one, and then you basically choose one of these for each member of your crew,
right?
Collaboratively, and you can decide whether you're the pilot or the soldier. And long story short, it's cool. I love it. I think it's a great way to do it, because when you watch Cowboy Bebop, you could probably pick one of these out for any of those people, like the Lonely Heart, the Crack Shot,
Ace,
the pilot. Yeah, exactly. So I love that whole concept and how they pull that in of like the crew is the important bit, and here is a really cool way to come up with those ideas and collaboratively do it together, which the same things to come up with that. So there's also other stats you'll get into. Again, a reason I really like this character creation specifically is because it does talk about the stats you need in the game. So there are hearts and blues and troubles and gambits. So these are concepts. Heart is your ability to get hit and keep going. It is your physical health and well-being. You begin with 8 heart, plus your muscle. And you lose heart when you're shot or hit. So heart is health. But I love that it's called heart and blues so much better than HP and stuff. Like, again, setting the tone for the scene with the mechanics and the names used is chef's kiss, guys. They are on the brink of no. Yeah. And blues are a loose measure of a character's past sins, personal grievances, and guilty hangups, and an indicator of growth and experience. You gain blues from troubles. Again, love that. That is such a core mechanic of the entire game that speaks so well to, as we said, Cowboy Bebop and Firefly.
Yeah.
That I honestly think if you took blues out, the whole thing falls apart. And I mean, not just because the mechanics are based on it, because it so perfectly encapsulates the vibe of the entire game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have your characters are these like, they have this dark past where they failed terribly or something awful happened. You're just living past that, It's like, okay, fuck yeah, I'm super into this. This shit's fucking awesome. Also, I like this because it really like, we go over a lot of games where they're kind of OSR and your characters are going to die and there's not a lot of attachment to your characters, but this is a character and ensemble focused game where you craft a character that has a backstory, that has a personality, that is a unique living person that you can get attached to. And there are instances where I don't like that and where I do like that. And this is such an instance where I fucking love that, Yeah,
it's fantastic. It's so good. And again, I think we've talked about this a couple times already, but like my favorite part about Cowboy Bebop And I know it's a little bit episodic in the beginning. It's one of these in that my wife didn't really like it. She likes when there's more of a story. I was like, wait till you get to the end. Like the last 6 episodes. But I liked how it was episodic. And one of the things I really dug about it, because they focused on the different characters so much, is because in Cowboy Bebop, everybody is they're a crew on a ship together. But there's also a lot of times where they're very solitary while together. Yeah. Like they in their own mind,
stuff going on
in their own past. Exactly. And I love how each one gets a moment where they can kind of like face their past and move forward from it. And I feel like, again, so much of this already within the first 17 pages has made me feel that and want to do it over and over and over again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jables, 16 months. I didn't even think we were doing it for that long, but thank you so much, Jables, for 16 months rocking that founder's badge. So the next part is Troubles and Gambits. Again, for those listening to the podcast, we stream this on Twitch, so that's what founder's badge and emotes and if we talk to random people, that's what we're doing. Gambits are talents, tricks, and reliable assets that characters call upon to get jobs done. They reflect a character's past ties or abilities, and you gain gambits through play or pay for them with troubles. For every 2 troubles a character has, you can take a gambit. And troubles are summations of a character's past misgivings, misdeeds, vices, or regrets. They fuel your group narrative and sometimes provide sources of blues. Characters begin with 1 trouble and can gain new troubles at the end of a troubles brewing scene or by knocking on heaven's door, which we'll get into with mechanics.
Which we'll get to.
They may also gain troubles at the storyteller's discretion. Find a full list of gambits and troubles on page 34. Again, if this is hyperlinked, I'd love to click on that and go to page 34. I'm not going to harp on it all night. The book is gorgeous. Hyperlink stuff.
The book is really fucking beautiful. So
it's great. Now you get a full page piece of art of like an old school, like California 50s, 60s style, band poster.
I would say 70s or 80s, but yeah, sure. Whatever.
Sure, 70s, 80s. What is that famous one that's got this kind of pink to green fade? I can't remember. There's a California one that's a surf one or something like that. That's super famous that everyone has a fucking poster of.
Yeah.
But that's what it reminds me of. Moving into equipment and mementos. Besides the clothes on your back, you start with a basic weapon and a memento of your past. Another lyric, I left home with $1 in my pocket and a head full of dreams. I said, somehow, somewhere, it's got to get better than this. They did such a good job of these quotes. It reminds me of how good Red Giant did the philosophical quote, so that it kept reinforcing the game.
Totally.
Yeah. So weapons are interesting. You begin play with a commonly available handheld weapon befitting your individual. You can either start with 1 melee weapon or 1 ranged weapon. And there are gambits you can take more weapons. Again, gambits are the gambits are the abilities that you have. Players may roll on or pick from one of the following weapons. So why don't you roll me a d12?
I rolled a 7.
So these are the starter range weapons. A 7 is a shotgun. It's a sawed-off shotgun.
Shotgun.
Yeah. And it's personal and shot. So there's kind of tags on this. And those tags are explained later. But, things like loud, armor piercing make sense. Military versus personal. Again, hand cannon is a military style weapon and a little revolver is a personal weapon. So you can tell the difference even just by reading it a little bit. Why don't you roll another d12 for the starter melee weapons?
Bro, I'll roll it again, dog. Let's see what I get. I got a 6.
You got a boot knife. It's improvised and concealable.
Nice.
Some of the other ones are knuckle duster, switchblade. Martial weapon is starred. Martial weapons are anything from any martial arts. So a futuristic vibro sword, a mace. And to represent this versatility, a martial weapon must be one of the following: armor piercing, concealable, deadly, defensive, intimidating, or precise, and must be either conspicuous or heavy. And a full list of those traits are on page 73. So to see what armor piercing, concealable, personal, all this stuff is, you go to page 73 for that.
So I can do a concealable and but heavy weapon.
I think you kind of have to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of like, I guess maybe like tucking away a katana in like a sweet ass leather duster, you know, conspicuous as fuck if you actually have it on your hands, but you can tuck it into like a loop, you know, rock it Highlander style, you know? So this is one of the things I was talking to you about earlier, how some of the things in the book look a little fuzzy and some look a little crisp. If you look at the Rostovic logo and then the writing on the bottom right, this is dash scrapped Rostovic. It's got a little fuzz to it, but then if you look at profiteering from arms dealership, it's super crisp. Am I completely wrong or am I just making that up?
I mean, it looks fine to me. I mean, it looks like, you know, the scrapped Rostica arms, it looks like just a little like addition, so it doesn't look like it's like a little note. So it's not really supposed to be part of the same, like the Rostovic is like a brand, you know? Right. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I just noticed in some of the places that there's a little bit of fuzz or bleed on a little bit of the stuff. So another really cool picture of a what appears to be a woman with a rifle on the back. It says mementos on the page, and at the bottom it says, "You're gonna carry that weight." I mean,
God,
of all the things,
fucking damn it, this is so good. It's so good. It really is very good.
It's so good. Mementos are small trinkets, artifacts, or keepsakes that reflect a character's life prior to the start of play. They can be used simply as narrative prompts for a character's backstory, or as critical plot points. So why don't you go ahead and roll me a D18?
A D what?
A D18.
Okay. 7.
Or just like a 20 and top off 19 and 20. But you got credit from your first bounty. Some of the other ones that are cool are Beloved Battered Jacket.
And we will go over credit towards the end because that actually does have like a implication in the rules at the end.
Crime Syndicate tattoo. That's a cool little memento. A $2 million credit chip from a defunct casino. I love that one because I remember that episode, you know? Such a good one. Was that the first Faye Valentine episode? I think it was when they met Faye with the casino.
Maybe that might have been when they met Faye, because she was working the table and she was waiting for them. Yes, that's exactly the first time they met.
During play, a character can generally carry an item in each hand, 2 items in a coat, bandolier, or bag, and 2 item hungs on a belt or tucked into a waistband. Fucking love it. I'm tired of RPGs where you're a goddamn fucking pack horse. If you're rocking a fucking 200 plus pounds of gear and have a 20 in dex, you're full of shit. So I love this idea.
All that stuff, buddy. You know,
I love this idea. In the game that I'm working on, I basically gave people slots. So it's like you can have something in both hands. You can have boots. You can have something on your chest. You can have something on your belt. You can have something on your head, and that's about it. And a bag that holds 3 things. Fucking, that's it. And if you have anything beyond that, you're just carrying too much. So I love that it's crisp and makes sense.
I agree. It's also like, I don't know. I feel like this is just not that type of game where you're all about getting all this loot and shit. Like, you don't really need to carry it with you, you know? Well,
when we get into stuff with the ships mechanics and things later, realistically, when you do a lot of these gigs, you're basically doing enough money to keep your ship going forward. So it's like you're really not ever progressing at all. And honestly, you're probably just getting into more and more debt, so you have to do more and more jobs.
Depending on how the job goes,
Which fits the entire thing, because you might get that job that's like, this could be the one that makes us break even. This could be the one, and it fucking's not. And that's exactly what happened.
You could be eating bell peppers and beef, but there's
bell peppers and beef. Dude, so good. We talked about it. We're going to talk about it like 10 more times. The game reinforces the game. You know what I mean? Like the mechanics, you know?
And, they know what we wanted. They made this game for a reason, and we're getting what we want. I mean, I love Firefly, but I'm way bigger of a Cowboy Bebop guy. And like, so for me, like when this shit goes on, I'm reading this, I'm just like, fuck, man, this is so, and it's funny because they're working on the licensed version of Cowboy Bebop, like a licensed game. And I just really have a hard time believing it's going to be better than this.
It won't.
You know what I mean?
Listen, 50-50 odds it's 5e.
So God, why?
Hey, thanks, Dark Souls. Fuck off. Regardless of their true calling, any half-decent spacefaring crew has an array of equipment at their disposal. There's pieces of a crew equipment are usually tech or equipment too valuable for an average person to own, and therefore the whole crew owns them. And at the storyteller's discretion, crew equipment might grant the upper hand, that's highlighted, we'll get to that, on stat checks, make impossible stat checks possible or make stat checks trivial amongst the other additional effects. A crew begins play with one piece of crew equipment for each player character, and you can integrate that equipment into the ship. So if a piece of equipment is marked with integrated, then the crew member who acquired it may choose to integrate it into the ship's systems prior to the start of play, in which case its usage is operated by the ship's crew as an action. And when using the integrated piece, can draw upon a ship's system instead of the character's relevant stat. And we'll get into the ship systems and stuff like that later too. Piece of equipment gained through play may be integrated later by an engineer or spaceship. A space maintenance crew. Long story short, if you integrate it into the ship, you can't pull it out though. You can like break it out. Basically, you would lose it if you try to do it. But you can if you want. Do you want to roll a D18? An 8. So you rolled rudimentary android, which can be integrated into the ship, which is dope. One of the ones I really liked, where was it? I thought there was one that, and maybe it's a different thing later, where there's like a AI with an attitude.
Oh, I did see that. Where did I see that?
I can't remember that, but
it's a different table though.
Yeah. So authority monitor, fence drone, night vision scanner, bunch of cool stuff. Really, really like it. An expanded equipment roster is on page 97. Provident shipping source. I love that this just looks like Payless.
Also, this next part, dude. Oh my God, this is genuinely my favorite part of this game. Is 100% my favorite part of this game.
I would say it's for sure up there. Your soundtrack players, but am I completely wrong? Is this text not blurry?
It's on mine. It's crystal clear. Even I actually went back up because I wasn't on the same page as you for that logo you're looking at, and I'm looking at the spreads version. I'm not looking at the page by page. I'm looking at the post around the spreads version, and it's crystal clear for me. This is crystal clear.
Maybe I'll have to look at the spread version later. Regardless, it doesn't matter. Your soundtrack. Players should think of a suitable song, theme, or piece of music to serve as their character's leitmotif. This isn't a necessity. Yes, it fucking is. Just do it.
Yeah,
but can be useful.
Is.
Yeah, can be useful for when trouble's brewing for a swan song. And we'll get into both of those things. That's not just words. They're mechanics in the game. Or simply when your character is pulling off something suitably cool. I would literally have a playlist of everyone's song and then just tap it when it's their turn to rock, you know?
When I described this, when I read through this and I described it to my my game group that I play with at my work, I was like, it's Cowboy Bebop. And you pick your theme song. Like, you know, Spike has that fucking harmonica song. I don't know if it's just Spike's song, although he's always on Scream in the Place, so I guess this, but like, yeah, you can pick your fucking theme song, you know? Like, it's so cool. It's so cool.
So
and
good.
Yeah, I would make a playlist that has everything, and I'd write down each of my character, the name of my player character's theme song, and I'd switch to that when they're having their moment. And it lets them have this like cinematic, like heavy,
dude, especially when we get to the mechanic for Swan Song. Yeah. So good.
Which I kind of glanced at, which I'm the one who's about to read, but I didn't internalize it deeply. So.
No, it's good. So next we're going to go over the crew's ship. So basically the ship uses what amounts to the same mechanics as a person. Very similar mechanics. We'll say it that way. A second home for your found family or spacefarers. Cruise ship is a cornerstone in many space westerns. Given that the average crew will spend a great deal of time traveling aboard or relying on their ship's facilities, ships should be characterful establishments filled with soul and character. That's one thing that stood out to me, is just like a weirdly edited line. Yeah. As a final act of cooperative setup before play, players generate their ship's aspects together, unless the story allows a particular shit, and just do it together. By default, your ship is medium, and you have a +2 in one stat, +1 in the other, and a 0 in the final stat. And your stats are mobility, body, and systems. And there's an example ship here. Why don't we do a bunch of rolling for this? So why don't you roll me a D6 for its former purpose?
2.
Bounty hunter ship is what it used to be. Romeo, its origin.
2 again.
Claim it by force, hard 1.
Ooh.
See, that gives you an adventure right there, dude. You stole a bounty hunter ship or fought your way for it.
You could, even if you ran the first episode of this, you could then run a prequel episode later on where it's like, yeah, how did we get our ship, the Nostros or whatever, you know?
Listen, you should run a prequel episode. I need to know what's happening now so we can talk about your past, those troubles, your blues. That's exactly what I would love to do. That's an adventure I'd like to have, is run an adventure, right? That might be like, I have 4 players, right? Is 4 sessions, it'd be 8 sessions long, right? 8 or 9. Okay?
Okay.
We would have a session. Everyone's introduced, everything is going on. Shit hits the fan. Next episode, or next session, 1 shot. Roll the D4, we're hitting an episode on your past. And then we go back to what happened in session 1. And then the next one after that, 1 shot of someone else's past. And then go to session episode 2. Like, it'd be cool to see, like, this shit hitting the fan. And you guys
that'd be really, really interesting to do.
That'd be, Memento that shit, but not backwards and black and white. Roll me for the chassis, another D6.
Motherfucker, another 2. I'm not kidding.
Pitifully patched up and falling apart. So this hard 1 bounty hunter ship you got is falling the fuck apart. Another one? Do I just want to do 2?
1 this time.
All right. Your weapon is a Gatling gun.
Nice.
Just personal
Our
rapid
ship just has
fire.
a Gatling gun attack to it. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a bounty hunter ship.
That's very true.
And roll me another one for additional features.
4.
You got an android crew bound to the ship. Didn't you already roll earlier for like an android too?
Yeah, there's an integrated android as well. Yeah, so this is like, I got a bunch of like androids working to clean the ship. We have a mess hall that has an android cook that's kind of glitchy, but he makes
you have an integrated android and an android crew, so you could have one like kind of like I don't want to say mama android, but you know what I mean. That's been a part of the ship now. It's just attached to the ship that runs a little android crew on your ship.
Yeah. This, by the way, number 2 on the additional features is the onboard AI, callous, if not resourceful.
There you go.
Which is fucking,
there it is.
That's hilarious. I really wish I'd rolled that. It's like, yeah, you have an AI and they're kind of a dick, but they are helpful.
Yeah. Love it. Absolutely fucking love it. There is little rhyme or reason to how Interstellar Outlaws, or anyone for that matter, names their vessels. D100 Part 1, because you get D100 Part 2 for assorted ship names.
14 for Part 1.
The Wayward Sun. So fucking good, dude.
And then what's the Part 2? Oh, there's just like 2.
Oh, it's just it's just a whole nother list. Yeah. It's a whole nother list.
On the second one, so let's look at that anyway, you know?
Oh, I'm sorry. Part 1 and Part 2 is because the first one is to 50 and the second page is to the next 50. So you got the Wayward Sun. Yeah, I'm dumb. We're dumb. But I want to go through some of these because like they just pulled so many great references here. The Killing Moon. So one of the other things too that I loved about it, at the top of page 2, it says a simple method for checking a ship's name is to ask yourself how cool it sounds to say, I'm aboard the X. I'm aboard the blank. I'm aboard the Wayward Sun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great, I'm aboard the Hanged Man, you know? It's like, okay, that sounds pretty cool.
I'm aboard the Tiny Dancer. Yeah. I'm aboard the La Bamba. Okay. But Hell's Bells, Barracuda. I mean, I think almost every single one of these is a song reference. But Killing Moon was my favorite. Echo and the Bunnymen. What else we got in here? Purple Rain, The Desperado, LA Woman.
Purple Rain,
right?
Purple Rain.
Black Dog. 67 is one of my favorites because I would never do it, but it cracks me the fuck up. Lady Marmalade. Yeah.
All right, that's pretty good.
The Unchained Melody. Anyway, yeah. So now we're going to get into the gambits. As we talked about before, gambits are abilities, and there is a fuck ton. I think there's like 30 plus of these. So we're just going to go over a couple of them so you get the gist of how a gambit works. If you want to see all 30, buy the game when you can.
Buy the game. You should honestly, if you're listening to this, you should buy this game. Like, this is a fucking quality book. Even if you never play it and you just read through it, this is a really enjoyable book. Like, it's nice to look at, you know?
It's a good book. A Gambit, a fighter, not a lover is a name. And I love the names of these. Like, no one can match you in a fight. The first time each session, you would spend heart, which is your health, for exertion, which is a thing you can do during combat.
It's a thing you can do,
yeah. Roll a blues check instead. If successful, you do not spend heart. So you can just exert yourself if you succeed on a check. So those are the kind of abilities you can get. Ace Pilot. You've never met anyone who could match you behind the wheel. You can always use your savvy instead of mobility for stat checks when piloting a vehicle. So you get to use your own score, not the ship score, because you're piloting.
You're like, I put my highest score savvy, and like, I'm going to be the guy who's like, I fucking fly the shit, bro.
I fly shit out of this thing.
There's one that I like. I like Friends in Low Places, which is on page. We haven't really been saying the page numbers, but it's on page 35. No. You've known more than a few shady times. When you return to an old haunt and seek some old friends, roll a blues check. If you succeed, in addition to gaining a blues, roll with upper hand, which is an advantage essentially in this system. On your next check to obtain or coerce something from someone there. So you can go
from someone there. It's so good.
To your old neighborhood. And if you need some information, you can roll a blues check, and if you succeed, you gain a blues. And also, like, when you try to get info out of somebody, you're gonna roll an advantage. I just like the name Friends in Low Places, you know. And there's a lot of these.
It's so good.
It really seems like they're pretty easy to make your own. If you had your own idea, it's pretty easy to make your own. Yeah.
And most of them are really good, really good. Like, I don't think it's just like we have to hit 30, so let's make 5 sheeted ones at the end. Like, they're really thought out.
They're all good.
2 of them that I like that also have kind of like a blurb about them are Beauty and the Beast. So Beast, you are very intimidating. It has its benefits, including but not limited to rolling with the upper hand against the cowardly or against the odds against those with something to prove. And Beauty is you are attractive by any measure. It has its benefits, including but not limited to rolling with the upper hand on checks against the smitten or against the odds against the envious. But there is a blurb about Beauty and the Beast. It says the gamuts of Beauty and the Beast are not mutually exclusive by design. An individual can be both alluring and intimidating, and far be it from us to say who can or cannot be either of or neither amongst the vast attitude of the galactic frontier. Similarly, the storyteller may choose to nullify or alter the effects of these traits if a character moves between star systems or planetary cultures wherein their appearance is no longer remarkable due to cultural aesthetics. So a scarred, grizzled bouncer from a Hab planet may not be considered intimidating if they're a beast, quote unquote, their gambit, on a mining colony full of tough, hard-bitten people.
Yeah, because they all look like that.
You might, if you go from one planetary system to another where the standards of beauty have changed, your beauty might not be a good gambit in that place too. So if you go to like an alien colony that hates things with 2 legs, you ain't beautiful, you know? So yeah, a lot of really cool gambits. Again, just page after page after page.
Yeah,
a lot. Marksman's another cool one. With enough time, you can make one shot count. You can take a turn to line up a shot, examining a target and its movement. The following turn, attack your target with the upper hand using a ranged personal or military weapon and ignoring any penalties from a range cover. Basically, you have an ability that gives you like True Strike to relate it back to 5e. I think Mothership has a thing like this where if you take a turn to aim, you get advantage on the shot or something like that with a weapon.
Probably, maybe. I forgot already. So
it's cool. Oh, Tooled Up is one of the ones that we talked about earlier. You have all the toys, choose 2. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options to choose from. You can gain an additional piece of crew equipment. You can gain 1 or more weapons. You can gain one of your weapons an additional trait.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. Yeah. Give one of your weapons an additional trait. So if it's like military or armor piercing, whatever, making something armor piercing, there you go. Take an extra weapon, add a weapon to your ship, or you wear a degree of armor. The target number to hit you in combat is 9. So Tooled Up is a really good one. I can imagine people taking that. Yeah, that's a really, really good one.
It's funny how many I read through some other ones when you were reading a couple of them out, and it's like so many. Spike Spiegel has so many of these. You know?
Yeah, Spike Spiegel's a fucking man.
Yeah.
So Trouble Expanded. So here's some things that you can do during character creation to talk about like your troubles. Best served cold. They cross you and they'll regret it. Answer 2 during character creation. Who betrayed you? What did they do? Why did you trust them? What did it cost you? Or what is the one line you said you wouldn't cross to get revenge? So just answer 2 of those. When you answer one of these questions during play, gain 1 blues. So if this comes up in play and you basically like are telling your story of your past and things like that, you gain a blues. Basically, when this, if your past person that betrayed you shows up at a bar you walk into, boom, you got a blues. Man, because it's making you sad when your past comes back to the present.
I love this. I just think, I really like, I want my players to create like backstory, character driven like experiences, but a lot of systems don't always give you the tools. And that's one thing, like when I read through Cypher's system, which we haven't gone over yet, but I really like it because everything in Cypher is like, you have this power. How does everyone around you feel about it? Like, oh, you have a thing with somebody else in your party. And I always really like that. And this is so cool because it's like, answer, 2 during character creation. It's like, okay, cool. So I have to give an explanation of like why, and
the troubles are important within the mechanics of the game
like
too.
This game. So
yeah, it's good. Also, it keeps going. You also gain 1 blues when you remember what it cost you. You escalate a situation in an attempt to get revenge, or you cross the one line you always swore you wouldn't. So again, and blues are important in the game. Troubles are important in the game, but it's all mechanically, but also in character creation. And I fucking love that. I fucking love that. So that's what it sounds like. We don't really need to go over another one. Bloodthirsty is really good too, but you get like 2, 4.
There's one
6.
that's literally called Orbital Blues. I like that. No.
Devil in the Bottle is really good. Lovesick on the Run. What page are we on? Oh yeah, Orbital Blues. Reality is ruthless. Everyone is fighting the blues too, but you lost big. Answer 2 during character creation. What caused the onset of the blues? What did you enjoy before the blues? And what makes you peel yourself out of bed each day? How do you cope with the blues? Who helps you through the blues? Long story short, you're depressed as fuck.
Yeah.
And how do you handle that? This is a sad
boy game. This is a sad boy and girl game. A sad boy, girl, and they game.
When you answer one of these questions during play, you gain a blue, and you also gain a blue when you wrestle with the blues, when you inflict the blues upon another, or when you see someone enjoying something the blues have spoiled for you. Come on. Yeah. There's a tag at the bottom of the pages that says crooked establishments. There are many types of organizations you can be in too deep with. Criminal gangs, mercenary companies, military units, police departments, corporations. In Orbital Blues, the only difference between a gang member and a cop is that one of them is definitely a fascist. I love this. One of my favorite little blurbs in the entire fucking game.
Oh
yeah. Oh man,
that's so funny, dude.
It's so good. SoulMuppet, you fucking you guys,
y'all.
you did the thing.
I will give SoulMuppet more money for anything else they put out after this. I believe in them now.
Yeah, there's other stuff. We will check their stuff out. It's fantastic. So real quick, we are going to take a break before we get into playing the game. So stick around with us, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hello, and welcome back to the Weekly Scroll Podcast. We just finished character creation, and we are moving into playing the game. So,
playing the game. So, this first little section, I'm not going to read all the way through, but it kind of talks about how there's the role of the storyteller, and then your player characters are known as interstellar outlaws. This game's obviously different from our kind of regular run-of-the-mill fantasy. There's not dragons and stuff. Obviously, it's a space adventure. So, you've, got marks, you got jobs and credits as your like form of income. This is a 2d6 system. We see over here stat checks. Stat checks make up the bulk of what is the dice rolling in this game. To make a stat check, you will roll 2d6 and then add your relevant stat. If the total is 8 or above, you succeed. Otherwise, you are unsuccessful and the action fails. Regardless, the storyteller narrates the result, obviously. I guess this is a story-based game. A stat check's target number is always 8. If the situation is harder or easier, then you roll with upper hand or against the odds, which is advantage or disadvantage, respectively, that we'll go over.
Yeah.
It's interesting it's a 2d6 and it's not partial success.
So I would love to just make a list of all the different 2d6 systems we run into, because the 2d6 partial success is fantastic. The Necronautilus 2d6 system is completely different, and it's got like the ties and stuff in it. I've seen, like, if you read Maze Rats, the way that they're, and I don't know if you got to read fucking Maze Rats. It was Ben Milne's book before Knave.
I haven't.
The game before Name. The way combat works really simply is you roll 2d6, and however many points you have over the enemy's armor is how much damage they take, and that's it.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Really cool. What's interesting about the 2d6 8+ is that we know that the standard bell curve on a 2d6 is 6 to 8, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So, I mean, that's the high end of the bell curve. Like, to get above an 8, statistically, I mean, you have up to a potential +3. So
Right. So if you have a +2, you're probably okay, you know?
Your +1, I mean, because the way Powered by the Apocalypse does their system, we've already talked about this, as a 7 and 9, is because they assume you at least have a +1 in pretty much everything you do instead of doing a 6 to 8. And this, you have at least, I don't think it's, do you start with a +3 or is it a 2, 1, and 0? I think it's
2, 1, and 0. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
We have to go back and look.
So your 2 stat, average success, right? Anything less than the thing you're best at is statistically, and maybe I'm completely terrible at math, gonna fail.
So you have just about a 40% chance to hit 8 or above.
So 60% chance of failing, based on your stats and stuff like that.
I mean, that's with 0. That's with +0.
Yeah, it was 0 exactly. So on your worst thing, 60% chance you fail at it. So I think that's what I do really like about that mechanic is, especially because right after it says upper hand against the odds, things like that. It encourages you to put yourself in situations where you get the upper hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's statistically going to be better.
If you have a +2, you have a way, way higher chance of passing.
Sure.
Like it jumps pretty steadily. So yeah, that's really cool. I'm good with that. I feel good about it, you know?
But again, we talked about how I don't like rolling with only 1 dice because it's all the same odds no matter what.
Right.
I love this because what you just said is the thing that you're best at, statistically, you're probably going to succeed at. And the thing that you're worst at, statistically, you're probably not going to succeed at. And I love that, especially only rolling 2 dice with 3 stats. So
yeah. Cool. So the upper hand on our next page, we're on page 51, which we keep forgetting to say for those of y'all reading along at home or whatever. So rolling with upper hand. This is essentially their advantage system. Upper hands are tasks that are made easier, whether due to gambits, training equipment, environmental circumstances, any of the reasons you give somebody kind of an upper hand or an advantage on while they're rolling. This is a 2d6 system. So for them, advantage is going to be, or upper hand is 3d6, drop the lowest. Fantastic. Love that. And against the odds is the opposite. Obviously, so you're gonna roll 3d6 and you're gonna drop the highest. And that, I don't know why, but personally, not that I dislike it, I do like it. It always hurts more though to the 3d6 drop the highest instead of just rolling 2d20s and dropping the highest. I don't know why, but the 3d6 one just hits me so much deeper. So deep. I can't explain why. Do you want to say something? You look like you want to say something.
I said so deep.
So deep. Okay. Multiple instances. So basically what this is saying is that I'm not going to read all this out, but they cancel each other out, which is very sensical. I will read part of this because there is actually one thing about this that's interesting. So if you have an upper hand and you have against the odds, they cancel each other out. It's just a flat roll, right? And if you have 2 upper hands and then 1 against the odds, then you just roll upper hand. But really interesting, if you have a reason to have upper hand 3 times, the roll is considered trivial and you just automatically pass. And opposite, if you have against the odds 3 times, it's impossible and you can't do it. So like, no, if you have 3 reasons to have an advantage on this or upper hand, like just don't roll. Like you pass. And I really, really like that.
I love both parts of that because there are a bunch of systems out there where it's basically like, if you have, it doesn't matter how much advantage you have or disadvantage you have. If you have one of each, you got nothing. I don't like that. I'm like, I got advantage 5 different ways and one disadvantage makes it go away. I love that you can basically just math it out and see how many you got left. And I also love what you just said, because there are a lot of things in the game, we kind of blew through it, but there's a lot of things in the game that give you upper hand, like some of your weapons, some of your gambit, some of your other things.
Right.
So you can be like, I got it from this, and this. I love that you can stack it. And like you just said, if you get 3 plus, you fucking do it.
Yeah, you just do it.
Because why not? Because that's fucking cool. That's fucking cool. That's why.
That's fucking cool. And this,
let me put on your song.
Definitely a game like about being fucking cool. You know?
Yep. 100.
Except the debt and stuff, because that shit.
Listen, I got debt and I'm cool, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. We're moving on. We are on page 53, which is observation checks. You make observation checks to discern any environment's unusual features, to see, smell, or hear something that isn't trivial to notice. And that is a fantastic note. And I've actually coached some of the DMs that I like kind of know about when they play games, and they're like, make people roll perception checks for shit that's right in front of them. And they're like, oh, well, they did. I'm bummed they didn't see that. I'm like, well, then why the fuck did you have them roll for it? If it's a tower in their eyesight, they can see it. But this is great. Like, yeah, if your player characters want to investigate deeper, like they can roll, but if it's trivial, and most people would do this anyway, but it's nice to have it laid out because it lays out that mentality. Just tell them it's there. It's trivial. Characters can normally hear companion speech in a quiet room, but they might not be able to amid a roaring crowd or a blistering gunfight. And actually, that's really cool too, because we don't think about that. Gunfights are loud as fuck. And talking to your people, talking to your friends around you, like on a moving train, like what we see in movies, that's not how it works in real life. So it's cool. It's like, you know what? If you want to hear them, you're going to have to make an observation check because it's loud in this room right now. And I fucking love that. Oh, dude, Jason, welcome, brethren. Observation checks could determine if a character recognizes a bounty in disguise, spots a gun. They're basically your all-around perception checks, but they're called observation checks. Following the storyteller's initial description of the location, players may ask further questions. We all know kind of how perception checks works. It's pretty standard. I don't think there's anything in here that was above board or like different. Note: passing a self-induced check may not uncover anything worth describing, which the storyteller should explain. Making an observation check isn't just checking if they notice something, but if the character considers it noteworthy. The character might spot a gun in a civilian's coat, only for that to be a common occurrence on that planet, or they may unwittingly spoil a heist by calling on the false ships. Pretty cool.
I like that. That last paragraph above that, though, had a good bit in there, too.
Unlike stat checks, an observation check has no modifier. Oh, no modifier. My bad. Not mean to skip that. Simply roll 2d6 against a target of 8+ to succeed. Otherwise, you fail. Either way, the storyteller narrates. I think it's really cool. And then on the failure, the storyteller can provide a description reflecting uncertainty or provide unreliable or partially correct information, which I also love.
One thing I like about the observation checks is in this 3-stat system, they don't have really a stat for intelligence, knowledge, wisdom, like whatever you want to call it. The savvy, the grit, you can kind of lean a little bit that way. But as far as the stats that usually generate perception checks, intelligence, or wisdom and stuff like that, there isn't one in this system. And this takes the place of really, honestly, how many times have you ever rolled half the shit that comes on intelligence or wisdom? Like half the skills from that? You never do. You do perception, you do investigation, and this hits both of those, which are the most important parts of those things, and you just keep going without needing to worry about a stat or add or anything. You just do it or you don't. I really like that.
Measure of time, page something or somewhere, 54, I think. Orbital Blues is a cinematic game, and player characters tend to lead scattershot lives with dramatic moments interspersed with travel, downtime, and perhaps even like day jobs. As such, we measure time in scenes and arcs. These are particularly important for the duration of gambits, troubles, and traits. A scene is, as in other media, defined by one or two connected backdrop locations. A few key events, exchanges, or altercations. A scene could be a tense moment at a casino, a bar fight that spills out into the street, or a particularly heated argument on the bridge between jobs. So your scene is your real kind of like moment-to-moment smaller building block for your session, your story. A session is a collection. Yeah, exactly. It's a collection of scenes. It is a period in which the player sits down and plays the game together. They tend to last a couple of hours and act as an episodic window into the lives and adventures of player characters. I like this implication that like these are like the focus points. There's still stuff that goes on in your characters' lives that are outside of these main like session focus points. And then it makes your character feel a little bit more real and inside of a world,
Absolutely.
And the last one, an arc. An arc is a collection of scenes in sessions loosely established, loosely establishing a given narrative. Listen, I can read, I swear. Depending on the pace of your game, an arc could be anything from events taking place over one blackout weekend or maybe a single session to several year hunt for a particularly notorious bounty. It's kind of just like arcs in any game. Like, you could have your one shots and then you could have your long form campaigns. I'd be interested to see how this did as a long form because there's not a lot of like upward mobility, especially when it comes to money in this game. And you'll see why here in a second. So I'd be interested to see like, you keep going forward. You're just like, you keep getting deeper in debt because that can't happen.
Yeah, I think that also contributes to that forward momentum, though, like continuing with a game, whether you finally pay something off or it gets worse. Because if you get enough debt, you could suddenly have someone show up that's like, hey, I bought up all your debt. You owe me now. And then, boom, there's more to it. So I think it's a
job for me.
Yeah, exactly. But much like Cowboy Bebop, though, again, a big chunk of that was episodic. And then you had like a 5 episode arc at the end where you kind of focus on the main character's past when everyone else got like an episode. So that's how I'd play fucking Cowboy Bebop. I'll tell you that right now. That's what I would do. That would be like a Bebop. All right.
Cool. So we're moving on. We're on Exertion 55. Characters can spend heart, which we understood now is like kind of their HP, their health, whatever you want to call it, on exertion to overcome poor dice rolls. After you roll a stat check, observation check, or attack, so any of those rolls that you make, or after an opponent rolls an attack against you, but before the storyteller narrates the roll's results, you can spend any amount of heart and re-roll 1 die for each heart spent. So it's a 1-to-1. You spend 2 heart, you re-roll 2 die. Regardless of the outcome, the new result stands. You can never use exertion to re-roll a die you have already re-rolled. So you re-roll it 1 time, you get the 1 redo, and that's it. It's locked in after that. And that's pretty cool. And that could be like using your like health stamina to like kind of like, change the outcome. I could explain that cool as a DM, like, or as a GM,
well, even if you don't, talking to game creators and stuff like that, they're like, you try to like keep people invested as much as possible, but sometimes the game mechanic works because it's a fucking game mechanic. And as long as it's close enough, who cares?
Totally okay.
Totally works. Yeah.
Pardon me. Blues checks. A character makes a blues check whenever something terrible happens to them, which in this game is going to be at least often.
Sad boy game.
It is a measure of stress and turmoil for an outlaw. Blues checks often relate to a character's troubles, but anything that saddens them might call for blues checks. So anytime you have a little sad boy, girl, they moment, you're gonna make a fucking blues check. Sad person. To make a blues check, roll 2d6 and add your grit. If the total is 8+, you're shook up, but you take it in stride and you gain 1 blues. If the total is 7 or less, the feeling passes and you gain no blues. So if you fail that roll, you just get to be sad, and you gain nothing from it.
But it's interesting that I'm pretty sure everything else is a roll under, and your blue a roll over, and your blues is a roll under.
But isn't gaining blues a positive?
Is gaining blues a positive? I thought blues was a bad thing. Am I completely wrong about every aspect of this? What exactly are we doing with blues?
Didn't we spend blues for a thing? Maybe blues was just a...
Oh, we do spend blues for a thing. What? Well, like, then it's good then to be sad a bunch because you get more blues.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I think this works. Is like, yeah, you get to be a sad boy with blues, I'm trying to be blue, bro.
Let's find where it talked about blues in the beginning.
It's
real
up
quick.
on page 17.
Yeah, got it. So blues is a loose measure of a character's past sins, personal grievances, and guilty hangups, an indicator of growth and experience. You gain blues from troubles. Maybe when we get to troubles, we'll talk about blues again. Anyway, let's just go back down and we'll
keep going.
We'll keep going, and then we'll
suss it out here in our own good way.
Yeah.
So 8 above, you gain 1 blues. Below, you don't gain any. And the feeling passes. Cool.
What page are we on?
We're on 56 for troubles.
56.
Troubles brewing. Oh yeah, this is why you want blues. This is why you want blues.
Yeah, I was gonna say we just had to find it. Yeah.
Once per arc, if you have at least 8 blues, you can declare one of your troubles is brewing. Your soundtrack plays fucking sick. Plays as you. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell. I really fucking like that. Try to assuage your blues by confronting the source of your trouble. You might seek a verbal confrontation or a violent one. You may have a depressive romantic episode, indulge a vice, or merely wallow in your blues. And kind of going back to safety tools, this right here is a great reason why you should touch base with safety tools before a game like this, because being in a depressive romantic state can be incredibly triggering to somebody who experiences that as a part of their reality. So touch base with your players, make sure this fits them, because this might be a touchy subject. And that's perfectly fair, and they're very reasonable for feeling like that. Because it makes sense. For the rest of the scene, you can spend blues for exertion instead of heart. So if you're in your blues, if you're in your troubles, the rest of the scene, you can use your blues points, your blues clues. Instead of heart, you take half damage from all attacks in this scene. Yeah, so you want fucking as many blues as you can get, because that's fucking tight. You get this. Yeah, I'm into this. At the end of the scene, reset your blues to 0, then choose from one of the following: gain a new trouble, potentially also gaining a new gambit, restore all missing heart, increase a stat by 1 to a maximum of 3. So
really,
by
this
going
is
through these
character
sad
advancement.
times, this is how you advance your characters. You deal with your sadness,
Well, I think one of the things that it said early on too, we're on page 59 on my thing, so let me remember that for next time. When it does talk about the blues earlier, it says personal grievances and guilty hangups and an indicator of growth and experience. So you're literally gaining blues and you gain experience by that. And when you have to deal with that, when the trouble brews, you've grown and learned and moved forward. And the fact that that's how you advance is by dealing with the blues that you've accumulated.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can tell that we really like this game.
Yeah.
This is definitely I know that we like kind of focus on reviewing games that we kind of already have a good idea that they're good.
Yeah.
But like this is an especially good one. Okay.
Really like it.
We're past that. We're now on first off, this fucking election poster. Have
So
your
good.
say. 74 election. Station administration section. It's like so funny. Paid for by the Allied Council on Confederate Voters. Like I don't know. I like that there's posters in here that are like just posters.
Like I said, I love the little slices of life throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting, and it's kind of a thing that now that I'm seeing them do this so much, I'm like, oh, I wish other games that had these like really like specific settings that this would fit in, because poster's not going to fit for everything. It had like these kind of like this is a thing you'd see out in the world kind of poster. Like it's really interesting, especially kind of the cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah, I think I mean, to not bash on 5e like constantly all the time, they do occasionally have like they try to do stuff like this where they'll put a little tag from like this is a tear of a page from Volos or something. Yeah. But that's such like a little tiny little baby version of literally having like posters that you could find on the wall of a fucking spaceship. You know what I mean?
And for 5e, that makes a lot of sense because it's kind of that classical fantasy setting. So have excerpts from tomes is like a very much like and that's it's a great way for setting the scene. But okay, money. Listen, you want it, your creditors need it. And for some reason, your friends are always asking for it too. The Frontier Galaxy lives and breathes on cold, hard credit chips. And player characters are no exception. Money comes and goes quickly and in great amounts in the gig economy. God, that triggers me, man. Gig economy, God. I was a personal trainer and yoga teacher forever, so let me go, man. Interstellar Outlaws have to watch their credits and debts, or debts. At the end of each session, the crew calculates their credits and debts, and discusses how they collectively feel the effects of the balance going forward. Credits and debts reset to 0 at the end of an arc. Oh, that's pretty cool. I guess that's forgiving. At the end of a whole arc, you can just go back to 0. Kind of depends on how long your arc is, though. Maintenance costs on spaceships are so high, there is always something that needs fixing, and creditors typically understand that Interstellar Outlaws never sit still for too long. And actually, at the bottom of this page, you have a cool business card for an intergalactic banking group. Money, the root of all happiness. That's pretty good. Cool. So debts on our 59th page. At the end of each session, gain 1 debt so there's a checklist, and you go through this at the end of every session. You count your debts. If your ship needs repairs, that's a debt. If you crash your ship, I like that repairs and crashing is still just 1. You use your ship to fly between planets. That's 1. You use your ship to fly between systems. You have an outstanding loan. So if you have a loan, then cool. You fired a weapon with limited ammo, which is one of those kind of tags that we talked about on weapons. I think it's for ship weapons specifically, or it might not just be that. But point being, limited ammo. Additionally, gain 1 debt for each crew member who was injured or otherwise required medical assistance to recover heart during a session. To reflect like medical bills, essentially. You may also spend money or money on assets or other purchases during a session, which accrues additional debts. So you can pretty much kind of like spend on credit in this game. And at the end, it's like, just tallies it up at the end of your session. Credits, at the end of each session, you get paid in credits for jobs or selling important items. 2 credits for simple jobs like capturing a minor criminal for a bounty, moving simple goods a short distance, or roughing up some local crime lords. Also, I really like that they have these kind of tiered credit jobs right now. And it kind of lays out, because this is like, you could write your whole adventure looking at this, like, okay, they're doing a 4 credit job. 4 credit, that is a standard job, like apprehending a career criminal for bounty, transporting goods between planets, or dealing with a whole gang. Not just roughing up some gang members, dealing with a whole ass gang. 6 credits, ass gang.
How about that?
It's a gang made of only asses. Six credits for something more complex or dangerous, like capturing a wanted mob boss, moving illegal goods across systems, or murdering someone. Sick. Assassination. Which, yeah, I guess you
only
could
6
use
credits.
your Interstellar Outlaws. Hey, listen, 6 credits seems like fucking a lot at the end of the day because you're just tallying between the top or the section above.
Fucking a lot for the ass gang.
For the ass gang. Yeah, I'm looking for the mob boss of the ass gang. Butthole Supreme.
What the fuck? Is this Dick Tracy? We just name everybody what they look like.
Okay, cool. So 8 or more credits for incredibly dangerous jobs like bringing down an entire gang, getting involved in drugs or weapon trafficking, or robbing a fucking bank. Illegal work tends to pay more credits, but it also has other risks, and that is a great side. Yeah, you can get paid a lot more and do some illegal shit, but the cops are coming after you, you know? Like,
I mean, the cops are fascists.
Yeah, I mean, the cops are fascists, so.
In this game, you know.
Okay, so we're on to our next page. Balancing the books. And this cat is back. Hello, Loki. It's so good to see you. It's been so long. Needs to move along there, little buddy. Thank you. After assessing your credits and debts, at the end of each session, if your debts are greater than your credits, roll and choose the following. Will you roll a d6 for me?
Yeah, I should have a dice roller up too, but mine is bookmarked, and it's a 4.
You lose a friendly contact.
Damn.
They don't want to deal with you, man. You're in too debt. You're too hot right now. You're in debt.
I'm in too deep. I'm in too deep.
You're not in too deep because that's a trouble. You're
correct.
You want to roll that's probably good. There's some negative outcomes and they're interesting.
I do like this part though. If your debts are 3 greater than your credits, roll or choose a second time. Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. Alternatively, the storyteller might tell you which option has happened. Oh, so the storyteller, you might just go, no, this is what fucking happens. And like, I think for some story beats, like that's really appropriate. I think for maybe like some of the general jobs and stuff, I just let them roll. If your credits are greater than your debts, roll on the following. So, hey, go ahead and roll me a d6 again. 3, reset your ship's stats to full. Ship's fully repaired. I mean, I would assume all weapons are fully stocked on the ship as well. That's how I would take that. Yeah. If your credits are 3 or more again, you roll twice. Cool.
And we haven't got to it yet, but the reset your ship's stats to full is because when you are in combat with your ship, there's no heart score, so the damage goes to your ship's stats until they're at 0 and you have no ship.
Fantastic. Cool. Savings. In this economy, though unlikely, it is possible for crew to have more credits than they know what to do with. That seems unlikely. But just in case. In this case, they may put their excess credits into savings. This is a separate pool of credits that can only be stored or retrieved by visiting a bank or ATM, but otherwise does not affect the active balance between a crew's credits and debts. Savings can be spent to invest in organizations requiring a buy-in or at least 10 credits. Hire individual goons for 1 credit each per session. Goons. Hire a mob of 6 goons. Hire a mob of 6 goons for a total of 4 credits per session. You can get yourself some fucking goons, bro. We all out here trying to get goons. Cool. Yeah. So you can have a savings and pull it out to invest in some organizations. You can you can get some hirelings for maybe a job where you don't want to waste as much of your own manpower, and you might need some sheep to go down for you, some cannon fodder. Crew projects. Crew projects. I think we kind of touched base on crew projects earlier, right? Some crew members spend
the crew equipment, I think we hit where you can integrate stuff. Yeah. So
crew projects are like, you have one in their downtime, they're working on projects on the ship, right? Or they're crew-wide projects. At the end of each session, if your credits are higher than your debts, I read this by myself earlier, which is why I'm thinking I read it with you earlier. I was going over this again. One of the options is to advance a crew project by 1 pip. When the crew project has 4 pips, you may do one of the following. So you're have somebody or maybe multiple who are working in their downtime on the ship.
Well, we have an android crew.
We have the android crew. They're working in their downtime on the ship, and every time we have extra money, we can put a little bit more money into that downtime activity to increase whatever. So your options are, after you get your 4 pips, upgrade the ship. You can increase one of the ship's stats by 1 to a maximum of 3. You can obtain an asset, create or purchase a new piece of crew equipment, scientific breakthrough, invent a design for a new piece of crew equipment. You need to obtain an asset to get the working prototype. So you can get an idea of what you're going to get next time. Upgrade a weapon, add a keyword to a ship or crew member's weapon. That's pretty cool. So you can keep pushing forward. And it's nice that it just says if you're positive in credits. It doesn't require an amount. And it also doesn't require credits necessarily. It just says if you have extra, you get 1 pip. And on the next page, we have this really great throwback, almost Apple computer poster. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Very cool, very outdated computer. Cool. And now we've got combat. And let me tell you, this is a fantastic spread on these 2 pages. The ship,
oh my god,
this cool, sky ship, obviously spaceship, 1-person craft. It kind of reminds me of a bunch I've seen before. I really like it. Just flying, smoking in the air. Cool.
Yeah. Above these purple clouds of the sun setting behind it. I mean, the colors are gorgeous. I mean,
which reminds me of somebody's ship's going down and that sad music's playing. They're on the radio and they're talking to them. It's their final moments alive. They're playing a harmonica.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Combat. Hey, it's combat divided into rounds. What do you know? There are rounds of combat. Each round is 10 seconds, which is what everyone does because it's fucking easy to measure a minute. Initiative. So this is kind of one of those where I believe you roll initiative each time. Initiative is determined. I don't do that. I never do that. I never do it. Initiative determines the turn order in a round. To determine initiative, each character rolls a D3 and adds their savvy, taking into account any modifiers from gambits. So your gambits can work if you have a gambit that works for you in this. Characters take turn in descending initiative order. Makes sense. Roll high, go first. Maybe you don't roll. Did it say?
Yeah.
No.
You don't roll that every time, but that last one has a little tweak. The last paragraph.
In the event of a tie, the character with the higher savvy acts first. Totally makes sense. In case of tied savvies, characters act before any enemies. When 2 characters are tied, the player decides who goes first. When 2 enemies are tied, the storyteller decides to order. Makes total sense. Recalculating initiative. Recalculate initiative at critical or dramatic moments with a +1 or -1 modifier awarded based on the narrative circumstances of the conflict. I actually don't hate that.
I don't see any reason to hate that at all. If something dramatic happens or something narrative makes a lot more sense, you can bump someone's initiative up by 1, and they can actually act before the enemy this time for whatever reason. So yeah. I don't think the +1 or -1s could really affect it that much, but I wouldn't mind if say you were going and then a bad guy goes and then I go. I don't mind in a dramatic moment if you do something that helps me do something crazy. If I slip in front of that bad guy and do it, I like that this kind of gives me a little bit of permission to say that that's okay.
Yeah, I do too. I like that it gives the language lends to flexibility for narrative reasons. And I think that that's important because we're not rules lawyers here, y'all. We just like reading the books. Okay, surprise. You got ambushes, you got surprise. A character who is not ready for combat is surprised. As a character or an enemy, player character or enemy, and cannot move or take any actions for the first turn in initiative. So they just skip their first turn essentially.
Yep, exactly what surprise sounds like. It's clean without the 5e You know what I like about games, and another reason you just want to punch 5e in the face if it was a person is...
Do you not like 5e?
You know what? I used to. And then I read some good games. But
Jason in chat said, tell us more about 5e, Ryan.
So if you actually read 5e as written, there's no such thing as a surprise round, which is the stupidest fucking thing. Everyone just uses a surprise round anyway. Everyone has to individually roll for surprise, and then you stack initiative based on who actually got surprised or not based on initiative. And then some people might get surprised, attacked, and some people wouldn't. And then at the end of that, you go back to normal. Fuck that surprise round. I mean, come on. Why make everything so over fucking complicated for unnecessary fucking reason? I like this. This is clean.
Know.
Yeah.
Like
if you're surprised, everyone's surprised.
Better. Yeah. Yes.
That is literally the antithesis of 5th edition. It is neither simple nor flexible. It is complicated and tries to tell you every single thing you are allowed to do in the very specific way that you are allowed to do it. And then the worst thing is that people go, sure, that makes total sense for me to do it in this completely stupid way instead of just a much simpler way.
I have to shout out you, Ryan, because I took a step away from 5e when I started playing Cypher System, because the whole point of Cypher is that it is more flexible. And I really like that. But you really got me into like OSR or OSE or whatever. And like these kind of like retro clones, and then everything's kind of coming out from this at games like this. And it's way more enjoyable. And it's nice to like, dude, I don't give a fuck if I don't know the ruling in the moment, because most of these books are like, just fucking decide how it feels right, you know? Yeah. And it creates this like, all of these games reinforce this kind of back and forth with the person who's running the game master, whatever you call it, and the players, where the game master is now a player as well. And I love that shit. I don't like when I sit with the DM with Dungeons & Dragons, they're like, I'm the lord of the world. It's like, you're a dick.
Rulings over rules, man. Rulings over rules. Like, anyway.
Yeah. Cool. I love that chat's just calling.
That was our weekly 5e rant. We appreciate you coming by. Wait till next week for probably a fucking another one.
All right, moving forward. Okay, we are on page 65. Knives to a cinematic gunfight. Listen, y'all, guns can be clunky and slow compared to the simplicity of melee weapons. When rolling initiative, characters using a melee weapon roll 2d3, or just, I guess, a d6. I mean, it's not statistically the same, but 2d3, and add the higher result to their set. Oh, they have upper hand essentially on the initiative roll. So if you have a melee weapon, because melee is fast and you can run at people, and you have to worry about loading your weapon and pulling it out, you essentially roll upper hand in the initiative. So you roll 2d3, you pick the higher one, then you add your savvy to that. So if you want to be a quick boy or girl with you use a melee weapon. Once for combat, a character using a melee weapon against opponents armed with guns can choose to make one roll with upper hand, because they have a gun and you have a bat, and you don't have to worry about finagling it. You can just swing the damn thing at them. You can roll it upper hand. Did it say once? Once per combat. So just per that one combat counter. So you use it, it's gone. But everyone can do this. And it's cool. It's like they give you some examples. They could use the roll to close the gap at a weak point, enemy's gun line, disarm a hitman, make a critical slide over the hood of a mobster's car. Okay, that's pretty cool. I'm glad I read that part. Yeah, very cool. I like that mechanic a lot. Honestly, it makes sense to me in my brain. And it's cool.
Well, the thing that I like is it makes sense, but it also contributes to a cool moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guy pulls a gun on you, you slide over the hood of his car, and you fucking hit him.
And you get the upper hand.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah,
you know?
So cool. I love that. Again, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool as fuck. Okay. I also like on this page, we're going to ranges, and they have this visual representation of range on this page. So obviously there are ranges for ranged weapons, and those ranges are going to be close, nearby, far, and remote. I like remote. I don't know if I've seen that before. Close is melee range. It's melee range. You can whisper to somebody in close range. Nearby is the size of a small room. Nearby characters can talk without shouting, toss things to each other without difficulty, or move to close range at a moment's notice. So it's normal room size. I think Ryan, that was like, what was it, your game or somebody else's description of like medium range is the size of a room, size of a regular room?
No, Merkborg's basic move.
Oh, it's Merkborg.
Is the size of a regular sized room. Yeah, I think in my game I described close as like a sword swing, near as like a dagger throw, and far as a bow shot.
Gotcha.
And that's pretty much what he did.
Yeah, far shooting range. Far characters need to raise their voices to communicate. Remote. Characters have a lot of space between them. Remote characters require specialized weapons or equipment to interact. Remote fighting requires scoped weapons, and communication requires a phone, earpiece, or radio. Totally makes sense.
Sniper range.
Sniper, or like targeted missile weapons, like airstrike weapon. Very cool. I like that a lot.
Way the fuck out there.
Yeah,
That's
way the fuck out there. Moving on to 67. Use common sense to decide how range bands affect play. That's a good thing to put in there. You should do that for everything. Attacking. You can declare a melee attack against an enemy at close range. The ideal range for a handgun is nearby. The ideal range for standard weapon is far. Roll remote attacks against the odds unless the weapon is long range. So if you have your handgun and you're like, no, I'm gonna take this shot. And there might actually even be a gambit that will work for you and that. And if a gambit. And if not, I would let my character make one eventually, where you can use a fucking gun and roll regular at long range. But yeah, you can do that. Roll range attacks at non-ideal ranges against the odds. So that makes sense. If it's not ideal range, it's harder. You're gonna roll with essentially their version of disadvantage. And that makes sense. Moving from close to nearby or vice versa requires an action. Moving from far to nearby requires an action. So moving one measure of distance requires an action. Remote to far, I think, is the only one that requires several actions, because the kind of implication with remote is that it's quite far away. So moving that far range will take a little bit longer. To move towards or away from an enemy while they're chasing or shooting at you, you roll a successful savvy check. If you fail, either choose to stay put or allow the enemy to attack you. So if you're running away and they're running at you, you got to roll a savvy check to get away from them. Because if you fail, like, you're either going to hold still or they're going to hit you. In a chase, both parties, I actually like that they have chase rules, because this game really lends itself to that kind of play. In a chase, both parties roll a savvy check. If both parties pass or fail, they remain at the same range. That's really cool. So in this game, kiting is a little bit less of an option, because you have to roll savvy. You can't just kite like you can in some other games, because this game is like you're a bounty hunter. You're doing this thing. You're chasing people. They're chasing you. Very cool. I'm glad they plugged that hole in the rules. That's interesting.
Like it. Yeah.
So, okay, cool. Attacking. Yeah. Also, not to give away, the art on this page is still really good. They have this side little art, and they have another visual representation of the ranges next to their rules for moving those ranges, which is cool. Attacking. As an action, a character can make one attack. Determine the target number to hit the enemy. The default target number is 8, modified by equipment and gambits. Roll 3d6. Choose 2 of the dice and add the appropriate stat for this type of attack. If the total meets or exceeds the target number, the attacker successfully hits the enemy. If no 2 dice, this fucking cat, I swear to God, Loki, I love you so much, buddy, but you're going to have to get the fuck out of here, bro. We're reading the book right now, my guy. I know y'all really just tune in for my cat. So not for me or Ryan talking.
I don't know.
Yeah. The attacker successfully hits the enemy. If no 2 of the dice with the stat added can meet the target number, the attack misses, but maybe something bad or inconvenient happens instead. That's interesting. So wait, if I'm reading this right, when you attack, every time you attack, you roll 3d6. So checks are 2d6, attacks are 3d6.
That's what I read. Yeah, determine the target number to hit. The default target number is 8. Modified equipment. Roll 3d6. Choose 2 of the dice and add the appropriate stat for this attack. The total meets or exceeds. Yeah, you hit. Yeah, it seems like you roll 3 to hit every single time. That's what makes sense.
Just D6s, and that's fine with me. Yeah. Like, it's not too confusing. It's not a whole nother die. But that's interesting. I wonder why. I wonder if because they want you to hit more because this is a cinematic fight.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It does make a lot of sense.
Because the next 2 things, like you attack with the upper hand, you get 4, and when you attack against the odds, you get 4, but you discard the highest. Like discard lowest and highest. So you literally roll 4d6, and you can pick out of 3. But it doesn't. But you still only get. So wait a minute. 3d6 to get over 8.
That's a default target number, so that can move.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, if you have 3d6 to get over 8, you're statistically gonna get over 8.
Yeah, you're gonna hit a lot of time. And like, I think for what this game wants you to have a cinematic, like the combat's not really the point of this game. It is those story moments where your character plays their fucking song, and that's tight. But yeah, like Ryan said, there's upper hand, and this one you roll 4d6, and discard the lowest, and then you still get to choose the 2 highest. Similarly, when attacking against the odds, you roll 4d6 and discard the highest, but you're still picking 2 of those die. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Interesting. I don't dislike it at all. I think it's very interesting. I think it achieves what this game wants to achieve. And I like it fine. A trivial attack hits automatically regardless of the target number. So trivial still counts. And deals high. Oh, wow. A trivial attack, actually, let's read this. Hits automatically regardless of the target number. It rolls 2d6 instead and deals the higher die as damage, plus any modifiers. An impossible attack doesn't do anything. Fun fact.
Oh, this is why. I'm sorry. We completely did I completely miss when you read 3? On a successful hit, the remaining die serves as damage. Subtract its value from the target. So you take when you roll 3d6.
Oh, I'm an idiot. I totally skipped that one. That was all me.
Yeah, literally the whole point. So when you roll 3d6, the two highest determine if you hit, and the third one determines the damage that you do. And that's it. So you roll damage and the hit all in one, and then pick the 2 best one to make sure that you do hit, and then the third one is damage. So like it said right here, if you have 2, 2, 3, you miss, because no combination of that will get you above 8. The 3 and the 2 is a 5. It doesn't matter. But if you roll, say for example, if you roll the one above it that's like 5, 4, 2, you can pick 5 and 4 that gives you 9. You do 2 damage.
Yeah. If you rolled
that's
5,
why you do 3d6.
If you rolled 5, 3, 4, you could pick the 5 and the 3, which got you to 8, and then you could do 4 damage. So actually, that adds another layer of like, you can make strategic decisions on the dice rolls if you roll high enough.
Yeah. Because it doesn't say choose the 2 highest die. It says choose 2 of the dice.
2. Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you make the target, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fucking sick. I'm sorry I missed that. I'm still kind of waking up, you know, even though it's like 12.
No worries. No worries. Yeah. Ooh, man, we still have a lot to go through this before, though, and it's 20 of.
Ooh.
We were like, this isn't that long. We'll cruise through it pretty quickly, and no.
We're not going through there. There's like an adventure section in the back. There's like a setting one that we're going to like.
Oh, yeah.
Not really worry about all that much. But
I think we're going to skip the GM section, too. That's around like page 110. Yeah. So we only got like 40 pages to go.
Cool. Attacking vehicles. Most weapons that can be carried by characters won't really do much to any but the smallest vehicle. It kind of makes sense, right? Characters going to roll against the odds of attacking small vehicles, inflicting 1 point of stat damage to the vehicle on a hit. So it really doesn't matter what you roll. If you pass, you only do 1 damage to a small vehicle.
Long story short, like hitting vehicles with weapons that are supposed to hit people doesn't work very well.
Shocking.
And if you try to hit a tank, shit don't happen. That's about it.
You shoot your massive spaceship with a little revolver, it might not do anything. Cool. Healing is there, and I'm good. Like there's a healing section. It's for I guess I'll read it. You can heal with gauze first aid kit, fully stocked med bay. Any kind of healing requires 2 rolls. The character doing the healing rolls a savvy check. Then the character who is being healed rolls a muscle check. Both these rolls are susceptible, obviously, to upper hand and against the odds, kind of depending on the situation, or stat modifiers, depending on the condition of either the party or the resources available. If the character is attempting to heal themselves, they make 2 rolls. They have to make the 2 rolls in order, essentially. So like if you have a shitty med bay, which is actually an option for when you're creating your spaceship, it actually might work against you in this. You might roll up like against the odds, because you can try healing in here. You don't have shit. It's not stocked for shit, but yeah, you can try. If both rolls are successful, the patient recovers D6 heart and receives adequate care or treatment. If one roll passes, the other one fails, they recover D3 heart, and then receive care and consequences or conditions described by the storyteller. If both checks fail, procedure is botched and otherwise is ineffective. A swing and a miss. Telling a player they've missed and moving straight on to the next combat is no fun for anyone. Whenever possible, misses should be given equal description. This is a great section. This is just saying, like, in combat, if someone misses, don't stop being the storyteller in that moment. Tell the story of the miss. And I think that there's a lot of value in that, because I think a lot of it goes, okay, cool, you missed, on to the next character. I'm going to kill my employees if they keep texting me on Saturdays. Cool, death. And when an NPC is reduced to 0 heart, they die. If a player character is reduced to 0 heart, roll a d6. If the result is equal to or below their number of troubles, their story comes to an end. The frontier galaxy has gotten the better of them, and now it's in their final curtain call. See you later, Space Cowboy. If the result is greater than the number of the troubles, they find themselves knocking on heaven's door. Dying save. If you are close to another character who is about to take damage or reduce them to 0 health, you can make a dying save, or so you can help them. You can save them from dying. You can only make diving. I'm a dumbass.
I was going to say diving. Bro, this is basically a mechanic. Listen. This is a mechanic for diving in front of the bullet to take the bullet for your buddy.
Taking the bullet for your buddy.
Yeah.
Man, I'm having a rough one with reading today, huh? Good thing we don't record this or anything. No one's ever going to hear it again. No. Cool, yeah. Diving. I'm a dumbass. It's diving. A diving save can reduce the amount of damage your companion would take. Characters declare a diving save, become the new target of the attack, but take double damage. Diving in front of the fatal shot. Yeah, you take more damage because you're just fucking jumping into the shot. Characters have no obligation to perform a diving save for their allies, but should a character forgo a diving save that would save another character, they gain 1 point of blues because it makes them sad. I should have taken that bullet for my buddy. I could have, but I didn't. Man, I feel blue about it. Hell yeah. Knocking on heaven's door. Characters who find themselves knocking on heaven's door, which is essentially the death save in this, are unconscious, delirious, or injured, and rely on their companions to save them. When the character is knocking on heaven's door, which is a fucking great name for this, by the way, they may choose to disclose a great regret, fear, or disappointment. So you're fucking laying there and you're almost dead and you're just like, fuck, I never found where my sister went, man. Without medical assistance, a character knocking on death's door regains consciousness in 2d6 hours. And they gain a new trouble too. Skirting the edge of death takes its toll. A character who discloses a regret, fear, or disappointment may spend the next arc making amends for their regret, coming to terms with their disappointment, or facing their fear. A character who does this at the storyteller's discretion shake off the trouble they gain, and they still gain a gambit if that trouble gave them an additional gambit. That's really cool.
I like the piece of art too. It's this very blurry, kind of lighting a cigarette piece in the back.
Fucking cool. Yeah, the art's fantastic in this book. Swan Song. Cool. This is the kind of where we bring that music in, right? We bring a swan song. Cat, stop doing this. If you reach the end of the road, trouble's too great to manage, your debt's too heavy, your race run, you may take your swan song. A swan song is a voluntary process. You go out in one final blaze of glory. You play your background track and you go out with your blaze of glory. Complete the with the soundtrack of your choice. You can declare your swan song at the start of a scene, provided you believe that this is a fitting narrative end for your character, or that your death will drive the narrative forward for the rest of your crew. Fuck, that is so cool. You know, like you can like, yeah, I'm gonna die for story. Like, I live to die for story. A swan song lasts the duration of the scene or combat, has the following effect. You make all rolls with upper hand. No attack or action you make can be reduced to against the odds. All attacks you make are deadly. You can make diving saves even if you have already acted this round. You take no damage. You sustain a mortal wound in the scene. You die at the end of the scene. That is so cool. Fuck, it's so cool. God damn it.
And then that little thing right at the bottom.
Bang.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go watch the last 5 episodes of Cowboy Bebop so I can cry.
Oh my god.
Weapons. Do we want to go through all weapons? We're kind of getting lean on time right now.
We are getting lean. Do you want me to take over this part? Are you still good to cruise? Yeah, we'll cruise through some of these things. The thing with the weapon types and the is I think this is a section that kind of explains the tags a little bit, so we can run through that a little bit. There's 4 types: improvised, melee, personal, or military. Then melees have that weird martial part. Again, we don't need to go through all of it, but the improvised weapons are more discreet than melee. They offer the improvised tag, which covers like tools and random things like that. Your melee weapons are dangerous but conspicuous, which means you can hide them a little bit easier. With the improvised, you get to choose one: bind, concealable, intimidating, or stun. So that makes it seem more like the knuckle dusters or a stun gun or something like that. And your melee weapons are armor piercing, defensive, intimidating. So just the tags themselves gives you a little bit of sense what they're going for. Personal weapons are small firearms. Martial weapons are the things we talked about, like the vibro swords and things like that. Personal weapons are armor piercing, intimidating, and whatnot. The martial weapons, like we said previously, it actually has a list of things that you have to pick from, and then that's how you can make the martial weapon. And your military weapons are meant to do like big, crazy fucking harm. Assault rifles, shotguns, grenade launchers. They're deadly and conspicuous. And then you can also choose something like armor piercing, explosive. But for things like that, there's a cool thing called a drawback. And it has to be heavy, loud, or have limited ammo, which I really like that in general. That you have to have a tag that kind of fucks you over. There's a section on creating new weapons, which is cool. Definitely look through that. I like the weapons that they already do. I don't know how much more I would do with the weapon besides maybe the martial, where it's kind of like the tags are all the same, but you can build something new. Vibro sword, that's about it. And then there's a section here about going over weapon traits. We're not going to go, it's literally a whole page. We don't need to go over all of them, but some of them that are cool that you see a lot are armor piercing. The target number is always 8. Bind is one that's on a bunch of them. On a hit, the target cannot move or act on the next turn. So basically like holds them. Deadly on a hit takes a goon out or reduces a mob size by an additional 1, which is really cool when we get to that section. So a lot of really cool things here and some additional drawbacks, like we said. Conspicuous, you roll against the odds on checks to conceal. Loud, heavy, and limited ammo. And we talked about the limited ammo before because every time you use it, you incur debt. So having something that's limited ammo has got to be something you don't really want to do very often. I really like this astronaut movie poster or like the wall poster.
Yeah.
Easy Care Galactic Wear. No one does it like Caldair. And it's like a spacesuit company. But it leads into the armor section. Maybe it doesn't. No, armory. I can't read.
Yeah,
look at both of us reading well.
I will say that the Y is at this point.
Yeah, the Y is chopped a little bit at the end. This is a section of additional weapons. And as we said before, especially in this part, there's just pages of expanded stuff. And I'm curious how much of this was expanded by Kickstarter and how much was originally done. So this entire thing gives you bonus stuff: lassos, SMGs, tranquilizer pistols. Yeah, so whole page on that. The next one is really cool. The Rostovik. We saw Rostovik earlier, but it's the shotgun with literally just like basically 3/4 of a page of just shotgun shells.
Yeah,
it looks super neat. Yeah. Another page, and that was melee or range weapons we talked about before. This is entire another page of melee weapons expanded: sword, cane, machete, plasma torch, switchblade. Great stuff. And that's all of the
Sword cane,
weapons.
bro. Sword cane.
Sword cane is where it's at.
Sword cane.
The next is vehicles. We're just going to tag on vehicles a little bit. We don't need to go into too much. It's like the spaceship that we talked about earlier. They have 3 stats: body, mobility, and systems. Body is the strength of the vehicle, mobility is the speed of the vehicle and its ability to maneuver, and systems are auxiliary systems like scanners, radars, things like that. And it's used when the consequences rest upon the capability of the system. So basically, your systems is, let's say, for shields in a critical moment if someone's going to hit you, or targeting in a critical moment. I love these critical moment things too. Basically, I read that as narrative moment.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I might let you do whatever all the time, but if it's down to that last little thing, I'm going to have you roll for targeting. Or if this big boom's coming, I'm going to have you roll for shielding, and that's it. Different sizes: small, medium, large, super heavy. Each one has different stats based on the amount of crew that they can have, and different bonuses and things like that as well. Don't forget that your initial ship starts as medium. And I think small vehicles are some of the only ones that really take damage, maybe from personal weapons.
Yes, they take one. Yeah, if you succeed on them, they only take one, though. So
one. So there's 4 ship sizes and only the smallest one. Basically, a car. Like if you're shooting at a car.
Yeah. If you shoot at a car, absolutely, it wouldn't take a bullet. You know, it wouldn't stop it maybe, but it would take a bullet.
Still talking about ships. So pilots, vehicles don't make moves themselves. They require a pilot. Despite the name, pilots do more than fly. They operate scanners, weapons, everything. It's part of crew equipment. And you roll observation checks or attack rolls and doing stuff like that. Take the wheel. Even the clunkiest ship can sing. You can roll. You can spend heart to take the wheel and use your own stats instead of the ship's, which is cool. I really like that. And if you took the pilot gambit, I think that really fits in well here because you get to use your savvy with it, which is really nice. And then ship damage. Again, we talked about ships don't have heart. It takes damage to the stat. So body is to the structure, and if the body drops to 0, you crash. Crew members without appropriate safety equipment are knocking at heaven's door. Mobility, if you drop to 0, it becomes harder to... If it drops to 0, you stop moving. You are unable to fly in space. And if your systems drop to 0, you are flying blind, and the pilot must rely on their own senses, and they cannot use vehicle-mounted crew equipment. And vehicles are permanently destroyed when all 3 hit 0. It's clean. It makes sense. I really like it.
It's very clean. Yeah. Everything about this game has been very much like nothing in here is even the least bit confusing. It all lends itself to a good game experience, you know?
Yeah. There's very few things I could be like, no, this is the one. Yeah. But yeah, that I don't like this. I really haven't found one yet. And I'm always a picky little bitch about shit like that.
Yeah, you're the picky one. I'm the idiot.
I am.
So I'm like, hey, this is great.
Yeah. Ship weapons, there's a bunch. Improvised weapons, melee weapons, personal weapons, military weapons. All have different purposes. Like the military weapons are purpose-built anti-ship weapons. A vehicle may carry a weapon equal to its body plus one. A vehicle may carry a number of weapons equal to its body plus 1. Okay. In the case of heavy weapons, use body instead of muscle. And loud has no effect in space because it's fucking space. And vehicles cannot become unconscious.
Not sound in space.
Yeah, and that's vehicles. Ship armory. This is just an expansion.
Cool background image, you know.
That is the background image that you use. I love that you always add a background image from the game as your background. I have like all my books and shit behind me, which I really like, but I do love that you do that. Ship armory, it's just expanded weapons, Gatling guns, harpoon guns, and it gives you the tags appropriate for it. Torpedo suite is military, precise, limited ammo. And then taking damage, we talked about this before. You roll a d6 on the ship's table when a vehicle is dealt 3 or more damage by a weapon, hit by an attack from a military or melee weapon, damaged by disturbance, or damaged by some kind of action. So you roll a 1d6 and it tells you where you take the damage. So once you roll 1d6. Yep.
1.
Oh, it's body damage. It's body to the body. You're getting bodied, son. Damage can be repaired by repair action. If 2 stats drop below 0, the ship's power grid becomes damaged. Someone had better repair the ship. If all 3 stats is 0, you done dead. But here's the thing I do like about this. It straight up says people don't fight to the death.
People mostly don't fight because to the fucking death. No one fights to the fucking death anywhere.
Yeah. So basically all this says is whether you're in debt or not, your ship is worth something. And more times than not, the battle will end before that because they want your shit. They're either going to loot you or steal your shit is basically what it says. And I like that they added that in here.
Yeah, me too.
I like this page here. That's a piece of art that looks like it's inside the crew spot, but it's got like the combat zones, like sticky note on it. That's really neat. Let players repair their damaged vessels and treat their crew's ship with the same respect you would a player character. And that's a note to the storyteller. I like that.
I also, one more thing I like about this, like, layout in front of us is like, I like how old school futuristic the like,
I love old future, dude. Like, because it's true.
Yeah, I'm sick of how sleek they try to make the future, because I'm currently living in 2020 and I know what they tried to make 2020 look like, 40 years ago. And shit's just not that sleek. Humans don't do that. Only the richest, highest quality products look super sleek. Everything else is clunky and it's boxy and it doesn't work very well.
It's broken down shit because that's what the masses can afford. I love like all the Philip K. Dick shit from like the 90s, the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger where the chick's got 3 boobs and the thing comes out of that guy's stomach.
It's fuck.
You know what I'm saying?
I do know fuck.
They remade it with that asshole.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about. They're trying to get air on Mars. That movie. I love how everything like Dread.
Total Recall.
Total Recall. Everything looks. Oh, sorry, I totally missed it, Jason. But yeah, everything. It's the future, and there's shit that works really, really great, but not for you because you're broke as fuck. And guess what? Yeah. Everybody is, because it's corporate bullshit. Vehicle zones. It's very similar to the other zones. You have passengers and vehicles are at close range. They can board enemy ships. Between the zones, they move between zones just like characters do, with the exception the vehicles may also spin a turn moving from far to remote or vice versa. Space combat. I mean, realistically, most of the things work like regular combat. When combat begins, you roll initiative. You take turns. Each crew member or vehicle within a side cannot take a second turn or action until all crew members or vehicles in their side take their action. Each side gets a number of turns in a single round equal to the greatest of the number of crew members on the vehicle, the total of the mobility systems of the largest vehicle, and the total number of vehicles on the side. Once all sides have taken their turns, work out any damage from disturbances, recalculate initiative, and start the new round. It's neat. It's clean. I like it. I would be curious to see how this stacks up against Mothership Space Combat.
Yeah, me too.
We also cruise through that a little quick, and we're going to cruise through this a little quick too.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to see.
Listen, we went through like 90% of the gameplay, like totally page by page. It's okay. We're cruising through. I mean, and the thing about this is that the space combat is actually really very similar to the regular combat. Like, it's very much in line. There's the couple details are moved around.
That's it. Yep. And there's some really interesting things that can be done. You can do with actions. You can enter a disturbance. Basically, a disturbance is like flying into like maybe like an asteroid field or hitting like an electro cloud or something like that. So you can do different things. You can ram things. You can have there's sensors which make observation checks, and you can roll to calibrate sensors to give yourself upper hand, boost the range, target an enemy. There's communications that you can do too. You roll a systems check to cast out a mayday, cut through disturbances, jam signals. You can do repairs. So, for example, because you need to repair a bunch, to patch it up, you ignore that damage for this combat. Choose a damage stat, ignore a single point of damage until the start of your next turn. Roll a body check to also do something else, and that's how you can do repair.
Interesting.
Yeah, weapons attack an enemy in range. Pass a systems check to choose one. So to attack, use the system checks, broadside, targeted shot, crowd control, whatever you want to do with that. And then you can use different things for your crew equipment that you added on earlier, like board enemy vessels and things like that. Disturbances specifically is anything that affects the ship's normal operations. Plasma storm, asteroid belts, traffic lanes, like I said before. And they can impede a vehicle stats. They can damage a vehicle. They can amplify a vehicle stats, depending on how it works. Some examples of disturbances are asteroid field, you roll mobility or damage body. Gravity well, you impede mobility. Radioactive asteroids, you impede your systems. And terrestrial disturbances, high winds affect mobility. Storm impede your system. Thick fogs roll system or impede systems. You roll systems or you impede systems. Yeah. And you can create a bunch of different disturbances, which is great. You moving into equipment. There are various quality types. There's quality, poor quality, standard, high quality equipment. And poor quality can be faulty or temperamental. I love that it adds that into, again, we just talked about shit's broken down. Your shit's broken down. Yeah. Androids, authority miners. No, this is a thing.
Do you know what I love about this page? Is that
what?
We're on equipment expanded, right? And under a lot of this equipment, it'll say illegal for personal use, illegal in most systems. I just like, it's like a small little detail. It's just like, oh, okay, cool. Like that could be a thing. It's like, yeah, those are fucking illegal here.
I love it. The authority monitor, portable tablet monitor fitted with an aerial or several dials. And several dials, allowing the user to tune into both radio and video feeds of local authority vehicles. It's a police scanner, and you can actually tune into shit, and it's illegal. I love that. Like you just said, it's fantastic. And I love that there's this tag on the top of page 99 that says what's legal, what's illegal, and where the laws may vary. And there's a tag by every single one of these things. So it's just icons for what's good, what's not. Varies on Androids, illegal on this, and I love these little tags that they did. It's really, really cool. Bugging drones are illegal. Cargo scanners are fine. EMP grenades, illegal.
Hey, heat vision scanners are legal, so
totally legal, yeah, because available from bounty hunter supply vendors even. Fake IDs, hollow drones, both illegal. Medkits are good. Many drones, though, illegal.
Also, I like that there's at the bottom of, I think, each of these pages, there is a brand.
There is.
Nomad Science develops Archon equipment, double cross developments. It's like
not quite every page, but a bunch. And again, it feeds into that like slice of life chunk of the game, feed the vibe every couple pages, and it does. And this isn't all the things we said.
Pages, all the expanded equipment pages have a brand at the end of them.
Oh, maybe it's on each spread, and I'm seeing it through page.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm looking at the spreads like an idiot. That's right. So,
but this is another one of those things where it's like clearly, Jason said join late, but systems seem crunchier than I expected. Rules medium. I would say no. It's very light. It's 2 or 3 dice, and you just have to roll over an 8 for pretty much everything.
And then there's D6s.
Yeah. And they're all, and there's just abilities that can affect that. And a lot of it with the effect is basically giving you advantage or disadvantage. And that's really about it. Roll over an 8, and then even to hit, you roll 3d6, take 2. If you get above an 8, the third dice is your damage. So
I think also you came in during the spaceship stuff, which I think is a touch more crunchy, maybe.
Yeah, the spaceship stuff is way crunchier than like the standard base combat. But I mean, I don't know how you would make spaceship combat not like at least crunchy, somewhat crunchy.
It's a necessity. So
yeah. But I would say that this isn't any more rules heavy than. I mean, I would say that like Red Giant's more rules heavy than this.
Yeah, I would say
or
too.
About the same. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're very close.
One of the things we get a ton though is, I mean, we said this at the beginning too, so many of these expanded sections. So it's just I mean, we're literally looking at like 10, 15 pages of just the equipment or the stuff for the ship. We literally just rolled through at least 10 to 15 pages. And that's getting to playing the game. So that is, or running the game. So that's the entire playing the game section. Yeah. We're not going to hit running the game a ton. This is a lot of info for the storyteller. And one of the ones that I do really like, though, is the lone wolf. Some players might like the idea of starting alone. So in a game of edgelords, don't be the edgiest lord, is what this says.
God damn it.
If your players are familiar with role player and building narrative, this is fine. Okay, so some players might like the idea of starting alone or as a stranger to the other players. Basically, it says if they know how to do that, cool. If they don't let them, because that's dumb. It's a cooperative game. You're in a gang or a crew. You should act like it. So basically, like I said, the entire play one is, it's a little bit more function over form. Things are mass produced. It's giving you a little bit more ways to make the setting feel like the setting, and some tips and tricks on how to play the game.
Also gives you some like some starting kind of like missions that you can do, or the types of missions that these characters would go on. It's got a lot of really good info in it. I highly suggest that you read it if you're going to run this game, because it'll give you a lot of stuff that you kind of
so much. I mean, literally, like we're looking at page, like there's a job section in here, like you just said, repossess is a job, and it's not just like, oh, repossess. It literally gives you like 6, like what amounts to like adventure seeds.
Yes, and it divides it between legal work and illegal work. So there's a whole legal work. There's 2 pages, right? There's a whole spread, 2 pages, and there's a legal work, whole spread, 2 pages, and they're all seeds. It's very good.
It's really, really well done. I like it a lot. And like you just said, like if you're going to run the game, this section is incredibly important to read. We don't need to go over it right now. I just wanted to get to a couple of the other random things, and that was the stat blocks, and the difference between goons and mobs. So a goon is basically just some douchebag, and typically outgunned, outwitted, and outmaneuvered alone. Goons typically strike against crews in numbers. Alone, they pose no threat. Any attack that deals 3 damage or more takes down a lone goon, and they generally have worse stats than you do. I think they start out with this goon, this cop, starts at 1 muscle, 1 savvy, 0 grit, so it's worse than an average person. But this is basically what a stat block looks like. It's a name, it's what they're loyal to, and this is a new Houston police force. Muscle, savvy, and grit. It gives their equipment, pistol, baton, radio, handcuffs, and then you can roll 1d6 for the mood when you meet them. I love that. It's really, really cool. Yeah, they don't have access to gambits or troubles, and that's it. With some of the mob bosses, then we'll come back to this, they actually do have blues, though. So Commissioner Jack DeLacy has a bunch of stuff because he's a mob boss, but I love that there's a trouble. Papa was a Rolling Stone. He literally has a trouble. So it's cool. The difference too when you roll with mobs is goons and a mob have a shared profile that's slightly better than a crew member. They take 1 action together on the same initiative on the same turn, and for acts that require high levels of organization, they roll a savvy check. Rolling initiative is a little bit different. When attacking a single target, mobs deal additional damage equal to its size. So they rolled a hit, but if it's a mob of 3, they roll 3 additional damage, basically because you get a hit per each mob person.
And each time you like kind of, okay, cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. And each attack that does 4 or more damage to a mob reduces the mob size by 1. When their size drops to 0, mob is defeated.
As you go, and they're doing less damage as they lose men. So
yep. And then once you get to like 1 goon or no goons, it's just done. And then organizations is like, so we just talked about, so let's say, for example, police squad, 2 muscle, 1 savvy, 1 grit. And then it's got a bunch of different stuff. So that's a little bit better. But if you look at a whole organization, police precinct, 2 muscle, 2 savvy, 1 grit, and it's 5 police squads, 5 patrol cars, armored shuttle, 2 undercover agents. Organizations are more to use as a something to fight against. You don't fight a police precinct. It's almost more like a whole precinct rolling a savvy check to guess a crew's next move or rolling a grit. It's more of kind of an abstract thing you're fighting than being like we're head to head with an entire fucking precinct.
It's an overarching, almost like big bag. Yeah. You know, like that's very cool.
And then your marks are your antagonist, and that's who we talked about with Commissioner Jack DeLacy. It's a name-specific person, and that's why they have gambits and troubles. So this guy has 2 gambits and a trouble. So clearly it's to give them more background, because it even says at one point that why do they have troubles and stuff, and it's like because it rounds your character out a little bit, and you get something interesting from something. Yeah. So
also, it's really cool rogue gallery image, just real quick on fucking. It's so good.
Yeah, it's really neat. So that is how the mob, the stats and stuff work. The last thing to just do a quick roll through is this section here, the sutler system. And
it's
basically what this is
potentially some of the best art in the book, honestly.
Yeah. Basically what this is a list of locations and adventure hooks and a bunch of different stuff to run the game, and it gives you like, we're on it's like 40-50 pages of this of NPCs, adventure summaries, locations, all that stuff. So, I mean, you could easily just tag any of this bit, roll a bunch of stuff in the game, and run the game like super quick, low prep. It's really nice. And I think that's about it, because that runs it out to the end. There is a final word. Orbital Blues is a game that puts mental health front and center in the troubles and blues system. Mental health is no trivial thing. We do not suggest that anyone gifted has vices or mental health issues, or vice versa. Real people are much more varied and have a lot more dimensionality. In Orbital Blues, struggle is written into the heart of the game, and characters constantly struggle with the world around themselves. Everything is a struggle, physical, mental, everything. It can be cathartic to roleplay some of these struggles out, overcoming them or living the table. The experience isn't for everyone. Never let this approach to the theme to harm others. Long story short, again, 0 sessions and safety tools.
Talk to people. Don't be a dick. Take people's experiences of life into consideration, and take them seriously when they say they're uncomfortable.
And again, some people like that cathartic experience of dealing with some of that shit at the table.
Totally, absolutely.
It's therapy with dice for some people. For some, it's not. Some people don't want to deal with that shit, So
I don't. I straight up do not with some. But I mean, this doesn't really hit any of my major issues. So
I do. I'm a sad boy though. Like I like to when I'm sad, I like to be sadder. You know what I mean? Like if I'm sad, I listen to sad music until I want to cry. You know what I mean? Like I like to dig deep because that helps me push past. But that's me. That's not everyone. So we are going to kick over to, we already did, the game review screen to quickly review this and then head on out of here. So as you all know, art and style, layout and function, rule set and crunch, originality, value, scores to 10 with a total. And we base a lot of this in context of other games. So art and style. I mean, it's
one of the best that we've gone through. Like, hands down, is one of the best that we've gone through. It uses art to reinforce the theme. There's art fucking everywhere. The pages are art. Honestly, man, for me, it's so close to a 10 for me.
Yeah, I would say the only reason I would want to give this a 9 in context of Merkborg, for example, is the fact that Merkborg did stuff like, and I know there are things on here that are art, but like I'm gonna keep going back to that guy with the weapon sticking in him, where they actually use the art in the game to
explain the rules.
Was
there any section where they use the art to explain the rules?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff where they use cool fonts and things like that I really enjoyed.
No, I know. I understand what you're asking for. I'm wondering, is there any? I guess you're right. Maybe that's the only thing that makes it a 9, is that it doesn't use the art itself in a dynamic way to explain the rules. I mean, although they do have some visual representations on here, I do get where you're coming from. I know what concept you're saying. So, okay, I'm good with a 9. It's really fucking close to a 10 for me.
The other thing, it's really hard to, again, we want to be rare with giving these 10s, and probably going to judge harder as we go through more games. So we would literally have to be like, this is as good or better than Merkborg to get a 10. And for me, I love this. Don't get me wrong. I think it's one of the best ones we've done. It doesn't quite get there. So for me, it's a 9. If you're cool with that, I'm good with a 9.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Layout and function. So I like it. It's very pretty. It's very artistically done. But we're talking about function as a big part of this, and specifically for this PDF. And here's the other thing too. The Kickstarter is still going and stuff like that. This is 3.3. We don't know if maybe the final, I don't even know if this is the final PDF or it's still being edited. And as we learned from Johan,
so the books
did they already ship it out? So this is probably
Johan has it. Yeah.
Oh fuck, he does have it.
Yeah. A lot of people have been on Twitter have been posting in the past month as well. So they all
boom. There we go.
Yeah.
Not a single fucking hyperlink in the entire thing bugs the shit out of me. It really bothers me. It's a very, the other thing too is it's not a 30-page PDF. It's 214 pages on an open PDF file. For no hyperlinks on 214 pages, that's a lot. Even to just the chapter headings would have been something. That knocks a big point off for me. I think the layout's really, really well done. I love the use of fonts. I love the way that they.
It's very easy to read.
It is easy to read. The pages are not cluttered.
Yes.
So that's really nice. I mean, my heart of hearts is saying about like, it's somewhere between like a 7 and an 8 for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very easy to read. It's well organized. It's laid out in the way that I like it. It's very much an 8 for me on layout.
Works for me. 8. Rule set and crunch.
It's a good rule set, man. It's good. I like it.
I like it. It's really clean. Again, we talked about the space combat being a little bit crunchier, but I don't think there's a way to really rule around that. I do like it's clean. I like the simplicity of it. Does it slap me with the way Into the Odd does, where so much of it you're just like, a lot of it was like, I really like this. I like the blues. I like the stuff like that. Yeah. And yes, sometimes it was like, I fucking, this is great. You know what? Actually, the more I talk,
reinforce the experience. Like they want you to have a specific experience, and it reinforces that.
The more I talk about it, the more I'm convincing myself to go higher with this, because exactly what you said, the blues, the way the blues work with the trouble, and the way blues are your advancement.
Yeah,
really gets me.
Dealing with your sadness, with like what's happened to you, is the way you advance your character in the game. And if for that alone, that's already really high to me. Because first off, what games do that? I mean, I know there's an attempt made in a couple games that I've read, but this I think succeeds in that. And you know, I think the rule set's a 9 for me, man. We've never hit a 10 on rule sets, but it's really close.
I honestly don't think we're ever going to, because the problem is, I think we both have slightly different takes on the games we want. But
I have better taste. So
so here's the question. And you need to play it. Oh yeah. So here's the thing. Into the Odd is, well, that's the other thing that Jason just said in chat. You really have to play it to see how it goes. So a lot of this is objective. And we've said this before. Into the Odd actually got a score bump after Hunter ran through it with a group, because he was like, I loved it before, I love it even more now. So we actually, you'll see on our Instagram page, and we'll post when we make an adjustment, we'll post a new thing that says what we adjusted and how we adjusted it. So the more times you get to play these games, scores can go up and down. But here's the thing the question I'm going to ask you, because the score on Into the Odd bumped up to a 9 because you wanted to bump it up to a 9. And I agreed because you played it and it was amazing. And it was Into the Odd,
very good.
Yeah. Do you think right now, prior to playing it, it deserves the same score as Into the Odd, or do you want to go 8 like we did with Into the Odd, and once we play it, potentially bump it up?
I want to go 8, and I think I have a feeling I'll bump this because reading it, I feel very similar to how when I read Into the Odd. You know, I'm like really excited for this. Like this is definitely like it is a very sculpted experience, and sculpted well. You know.
Originality. So it's space. There's a lot of space games this year.
There is, but
they really lean
space cowboy game.
They really, I was gonna say, they really lean cyberpunk. I can't even
like. Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I was gonna say I can't name another space western that I've seen.
No, recently. I really do like it. I like the themes, and I've seen other space games that kind of use this like retro futuristic kind of thing. But there's this like, kind of like, I guess the ennui or the rusticness or something, like some combination of these themes that like the other games don't do this. You know, Mothership does not do this, even though it also has like a retro futuristic space thing going on. It's totally a different experience.
Kind of, but I mean, Mothership really screams Alien, the first Alien movie.
Yes,
which is not Cowboy Bebop.
No, it's not the same.
No,
at all.
No. Oh, you know what? There's another one out there that I think you'd really dig. Mike Anderson made a game called Space Cowboy on a it's downstairs. I think it was for a business card jam. It's literally basically if this game could fit on a business card, that's what it is. And it's similar. There's 3 roles and there's like a couple different character things. That reminds me of this. And that's the only other Space Cowboy one I can really think of anything recently. And it's literally if it's on a card.
So this is the only Space Cowboy full game that we can think of.
That I can think of, but we're also fucking idiots and newer to the scene. So
I mean, yeah, well, then we can bump it down later on if we discover that it's not original. But it's just like, right now it's incredibly original.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's hard to go 10 on something completely. Well, the other thing too is it is when we talk about originality in the game, but also in the thing, it's Cowboy Bebop. I mean, it's not like they pulled it out of nowhere.
No, very true.
Which is neither good nor bad,
I think that lends them to like a 7, though. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, okay.
Where were you gonna go? Higher or lower?
I was gonna go like an 8.
Okay, yeah. I am fine with giving this game a fucking 8. Okay. I think the experience is still very original, even though it is derivative of a specific type of like experience. Like
right.
But the other thing is that the way that they crafted the rules with blues and with troubles and with gambits, like that's a really original way to anyone can make a fucking game and be like, this is a space western. But this game is like, this is a space western where you're going to deal with like your sad boy shit, just like those shows that you like. But we have reinforced that gameplay. So it's not up to the players or the storyteller to like make up like concepts to reinforce that. Like they have it here. So yeah, I guess maybe higher than, maybe an 8 is appropriate then.
When you said 7, the reason I was going to say 8 is that because originality is such a broad thing. It's mechanics, it's lore, it's a bunch of stuff, and it's derivative, not in a bad way, of a very specific thing, which is basically Cowboy Bebop and a little bit of Firefly. But the way in which they reinforce those things, to me, was what bumped it to an 8. So for sure. So when we look at value, is it just the PDF that's out right now?
Right, just the PDF out right now. The PDF and the art book are out right now on ttrpg. And there are actually a bunch of there's a $0 quick start.
Yeah.
And then I think there's actually a couple of adventures up on our ttrpg that are not very expensive either. And I saw them. I can't remember where, and I'm trying to find them now, and I can't find them. But $13.
And the quick start gives you, again, it's based on Best Left Buried, the Best Left Buried engine, which we basically realize is the rollover 8, gotcha. 3 things. So you get 6 pre-made characters on the crew of a ship, as the crew of a ship called the Unchained Melody, with their own troubles, all the rules you need to play, a short adventure on Unchained Melody set in the Settler system, and it's a free version as a playtest kit. That's great. I love quick starts like this where you actually get to play a little bit and it's free, which is great. Yeah, and you get all the base rules. I really like. So if we start at 5, we bump it up to 6 because the quick start's really good. The art book is another reason I want to punch myself in the throat for not backing this.
Yeah,
but I'm sure this will be for sale later. I know that the night edition of the other one won't be, but the fact that there is an art book and art is one of the best things in here, I think is a great thing. The PDF is $13. That's not a bad price for a PDF. I'm curious when they sell the book, if the book will always come with a PDF. I guess part of that always is the store it comes from too. Like Exalted Funeral might have it and they'll probably give you the PDF as if we don't already have it.
I'll buy it again, damn it.
Yeah. And again, the PDF is $13. I don't think that's bad. That seems about average to me. So as of right now, we've said hardback, a book at about $35 to $40. The PDF is, so it's hard to pick this right now. It's really hard because the book will eventually be sold, but it's not out right now. We have no context on it as far as the Kickstarter goes because there were so many other tier things on it. So all we have to go on right now is the PDFs and the free quick start. For me, because it's got the quick start, and we talk about other things you can get for it, what else is available out there, I think the art book, this to me is between a 6 and a 7.
I think I'm a 6 for this one.
Yeah, I think 13, this is
13, almost $14 just for the PDF. The art book's another $14 and you get a quick start and that's it. Like, That's
Yeah.
That's a 6 to me. You know,
That's a 6. That's a 6 to me too. And who knows when and if the hardback actually drops, how much that
we'll
is.
have to reassess it at that point.
Where it comes from. That's one of the ones that we will reassess for sure. So
Because
let's
I'm
add this.
gonna buy it, so I'll let you know.
God, if I would have just backed it, I would have it already, and we don't need to fuck with this. 9 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 6, 39.
39, respectable. You know,
It is up there.
respectable score. 39.
9
it's
plus.
A good
I'm just gonna
game,
8 plus
man.
8 plus
God,
8.
you know what? But you know what I hate the most about doing this show is how many good fucking games we look at. Because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fucking play this game. It's like I don't have any fucking time.
And we don't have any fucking time is exactly the problem. Real quick context for the homies out there, and then we are going to bounce. If you look at the other games that are above this and right below it, Merkborg is a 44, Troika's a 36, Necronalis is a 42, Into the Odd is a 40, and this is 1 point less than that. I think that's about great, and Arc is a 38.
Actually perfect.
So this falls right between Into the Odd and Arc. A tiny bit above Red Giant, and Mothership is a little low, but when the 1E drops, I guarantee that number is going to jump up. I'd be shocked if it didn't hit a 40. But 1 point less than Into the Odd is exactly how I feel about this game. I'm super stoked at this.
I am too. This was a really good one. I really enjoyed going through this. It's a beautiful book. Honestly, shout out SoulMuppet, because this is not like your typical just RPG product that you just bought. Like there's a lot of really cool, genuine, and original experience to be had in this game.
Yep, absolutely. Like literally 100%. Could not agree with you more. And that is our episode. So
what are we doing next week? Hold on, I don't have the calendar pulled up in front of me.
Oh, we don't know, because we're gonna have to talk about some things and some peoples and some stuff. So we will announce that. I generally try to get the Jason runs our YouTube. He does a great job. He usually has that up and running by end of the day tomorrow or Monday. I try to get the podcast out by Tuesday, and that's it. And so we'll announce the next game next Wednesday, regardless of what it is. We'll see what it is. And that's it. So check out our socials. I've been adding a thing in the middle for what those are. We're on Twitter, Instagram. It's Weekly Scroll for most things. Adventure Archive for us on Twitch and YouTube.
Yeah, only.
And that's about where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. That's where you can, do all the stuff. So that's all I got. We are going to. We're actually going to raid Tony +1.
Okay,
so.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Hunter. Always amazing. This was such a fun one. I'm really happy we did this. So you have a wonderful day. I'm going to go to bed, and we will see you all next week.
Good night.
Bye, friends.